Goes behind the net. Centers and scores. Inside the post between the skates. They find Corey Perry. And the Oilers with a dagger to the Blues with 19.7 to go in the third. Channel take the face-off, win it. Buchnevich shoots it, hits it off of McDavid, backhand shot, and this one's over. And the Blues follow up the 12-game win streak with a 2-game losing streak.
I thought our effort was good. I thought we battled hard. Obviously, we didn't do a good enough job of checking McDavid, and we didn't do a good enough job of defending our net front. I didn't think we did a good enough job of getting to their net front. I thought the net front battle was the difference in the game.
I thought that guy wasn't supposed to play last night. He was unavailable when we got off the air, Alex.
Believe the Oilers, because them acting like all of a sudden, oh, breaking news, Connor McDavid, McJesus just turned water into wine and said, I'm healthy to play. Edmonton knew what the hell they were doing 100%. From the day prior to yesterday. It's ridiculous, and it should be investigated by the NHL.
To be fair, the Blues also played coy with the whole Dvorsky situation, which is basically the same level of surprise.
That was a game-time decision.
With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Blues lose last night, unfortunately, on the road at Edmonton. They've lost 2 straight. They played pretty well in that Winnipeg game. I would say they played pretty well last night overall, Alex. It wasn't perfect, and you did not go up against a full-strength version of the Oilers. So that is a bit frustrating that there's a real opportunity here to put even more distance between you and Calgary, or at least keep the same distance between you and Calgary as was previously there, and you weren't able to come away with a win in that one. That audio courtesy of course, your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Alex, what'd you make of that last night? What'd you make of the loss? Because it was frustrating. I don't know that I could call it a bad loss. What would you describe it as?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a bad loss because, I mean, Connor McDavid just had his way with you. I mean, you heard Jim Montgomery said, obviously we didn't handle McDavid the way that we should. There were moments that were frustrating in it. The turnovers that took place in the second period by Justin Faulk, the goal that I think Binnington probably should have had there at the end of the game. But big picture for me, how I viewed that game, I didn't think they were bad. I think it was very evident this team is desperate to get Dylan Holloway back, and it might be the downfall of this team. I mean, without Dylan Holloway, they don't have lines anymore. Like, you don't have what has made you such a dangerous team since the Four Nations break. And it's been the ability to roll any line out there at any scenario and match up against any other side because of the style that they play. Dylan Holloway, Jaden Schwartz used to be this way. BK, you referenced this. Schwartz was the guy that when he was in the lineup, there was a record where it was like, look, this team's like 750 win percentage. When he's not in the lineup, they're terrible because he's just kind of the engine that makes them go. That's Dylan Holloway. And look at what last night was. Last night, they went through 8 different line combinations to try and find some chemistry. This team is not generating a lot of offense. They're only putting like 25 shots on goal, which they were around that, but it was.
That's been pretty consistent. That's not new.
It was heavier, though. But what I mean by that is, like, even if they weren't getting shots, they were in the zone. They were creating offensive zone time. They're not even going to the front of the net with this one. Some of it could be fatigue. But last night, it felt a lot like, look, we can't get any chemistry going with those bottom 2 lines. We can't break Thomas Kyrou and Buchnevich up, and we can't break the WTF line up, so we're just going to have to roll and see if one line can win it for us. And they kept you in the hockey game. You've got to start finding some chemistry with your line combinations. You're going to have to start juggling them up. And frankly, some of these other guys are going to have to take a step up without Dylan Holloway.
Yeah, the high danger chances are starting to lean in the other direction. That's probably what you're talking about there. And that's what it...
And the Corsi rating, too.
Yeah, that's...
Corsi rating was 60-40 last night at even strength.
That's Edmonton.
It is, but I mean, when they've played Colorado, who's also a puck possession team, I mean, like...
It's been pretty close to 50-50 when they were playing at their best, and now it's more 60-40 in favor of the opposition. In the Avs game, it was 60-40 in favor of Colorado. In this game, it was 60-40 in favor of Edmonton. So we have seen it dip a little bit here lately at 5-on-5. To me, this is why it's hard to build that pack mentality with forwards. Now, you can do it defensively because the structure is easier to maintain. It's not perfect, but it's easier to maintain when you're without one of your top defensemen if you're just playing that full team structure defensively. Offensively, it requires skill, man. You have to have dudes that can put the puck in the back of the net. You have to have guys that can go out there and get in on the forecheck. And this is why, to me, Dylan Holloway was such a massive loss. Nobody wanted to hear it at the time because they were in the midst of that huge winning streak. And I totally understand it. But it's okay to acknowledge, hey, this is a huge part of your team that you just lost. And overcoming this is not going to be easy. when you have this pack mentality and you lose a guy that is so important, so crucial to an entire identity on a line, it looks like this, man. This is the obvious consequence of that. So what we have seen is now they're trying to jumble things up. They're trying to figure out what is the best combination of guys that we can get before we have to enter the postseason, and we've got to have this thing figured out, man. And the honest answer is I don't know that there is one. I think there's one that, to me, would make the most sense. It is Booch, Thomas, and Bolduc on that top line. It's Shin going back with Kyrou because I think that's the pairing. It always has been the pairing to me. And then you can go with probably Jimmy Snuggerud on that line.
You need speed on that line with Kyrou. It's the only way he can work, and I would put Snuggerud with him.
And then that third line is Sonny, Dvorsky, and Jake Neighbors.
Yeah.
And then the WTF line stays as is. I think, to me, that is the way that I would construct them. I get what they're trying to do. The Thomas Booch Kyrou line was great last night, man. They were the least of your worries. The problem is you had nothing else.
Yeah.
It was that one line, and then everybody else was just kind of out there doing their thing, skating around. I thought Snuggie, to me, this is only my naked eye, I didn't think he had his best game last night. There were times when the spacing issue once again showed up against Edmonton last night. It was there in the first game. It was there, to me, again, a little bit last night. But yeah, it just you don't have that depth of scoring that you once did, and that is a huge problem for them. And they've only got a couple of games now to figure this thing out.
Yeah, you look at individual players. Like, you're losing Jordan Kyrou. I know he had a great game last night, but the problem for me is why I can't put Booch, Thomas, and Kyrou is because without Dylan Holloway, you're throwing your entire offense onto one line. And then the other line says, cool, we shut them down, we'll be fine. And you've got to spread the wealth. When you don't have speed with Kyrou, we've seen when he was playing with Neighbors and Shen, that was a slow line, and they can't keep up with what Kyrou's trying to accomplish. So you need to get some speed with them. Whether it's Snuggerud or Bolduc, whomever you want to put there is fine, but you need some speed with the ability to score so that they can rush through the neutral zone. That third line, I liked Dvorsky's game. We'll get into this a little bit later. I wasn't happy that Jim Montgomery didn't play him in the third period. I thought Dvorsky was coming up with some real scoring opportunities. And then with that top line, I think because you don't have Holloway and because Snuggerud's going to dip down, you can either put Neighbors back up there with Thomas and Buchnevich or put Bolduc there. Whatever you want to do, you need to get speed with Kyrou so you can have a secondary scoring. And you can't fix this without Holloway. Like, the only hope is Holloway can come back and you make the playoffs. Hopefully, more than just a Band-Aid over a sinking boat can be Colton Parayko coming back in the lineup. If he returns on Saturday, it can provide a little bit more offense from your blue line. But yeah, right now, they're scuffling. And that was a game that, even if you would have gotten it to overtime and you would have lost, I would have felt a little bit better because you still earned a point. Sure. The fact that you blew that in regulation, it's a little concerning with where things are at right now.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And you only have 2 games left, and they're trying to find their game before time runs out.
Yeah.
And Alex, you mentioned you don't fix this without Dylan Holloway. I don't think Dylan Holloway's playing, at least in that first round of the playoffs. Based on the way that the team is talking about it, I don't think that's even a realistic option right now.
I don't know if he's playing the first 2 games. Maybe he comes back later. I'm not sure with that one, but I don't think he's playing anytime soon.
I'm assuming right now. This is all I can do. I'm assuming he's not going to play. So if he's not, you have to, even if it's not a fix, you've got to find some patchwork way to make this thing work for the first round of the postseason. Otherwise, like, what are we doing here? You've got 2 games to figure it out. You've got Seattle, you've got Utah. These are not great teams. This is not the same level as going up against Colorado, Winnipeg, or Edmonton. Now is the time. You can juggle these things up a little bit, but you have to have some semblance of confidence in the lines that you're putting out there whenever the postseason does begin. If this team can get into the postseason. We all think they will. It's a 98% chance that they will end up getting in. It's a low likelihood that they miss. But if you lose these last 2 games, Calgary keeps winning, there's still a chance that you could end up missing out. So keep that in the back of your mind as well. What is your level of confidence right now, Alex, that they will be able to figure this thing out offensively?
I'd put it from a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being most confident, 7.
Really?
Yeah.
That's much higher than me.
I think that they're going to have a couple of extra days to practice. Like, now they don't play till Saturday, and then they'll have 2 days off before they play on Tuesday. I believe Parayko is going to be back on Saturday. It might just be my tinfoil with this one, but I think offensively, you're going to be able to get a little bit more practice into it. There's just some holes that are leaking right now with this Blues team. And we've seen this in the past. And frankly, I think this was always expected. Curbs told us this yesterday. When you go through a 12-game win streak, it's an ultimate high, and then you hit the ultimate low when it's snapped, and you got to figure your stuff out. And right now, they're trying to figure it out. I think they do. The system that works in place, whether you're creating offense or not, it's good defensively. They've got to just fix a couple of holes, so I would put it at like a 7.
That one spooked me. That one last night really spooked me a lot. They had 3 defensemen play 28-plus minutes. They played 5 defensemen for the entirety of the game. They had Kasperi Kapanen out there a lot. They had a bunch of dudes on their forward lines that were just not playing. Their second or best player was not out there last night. Like that's the kind of team that you're going to see in the postseason, in the first round. And they looked better than you without half of their roster.
Here's why it doesn't scare me, though, as much, because McDavid basically generated 3 of their 4 goals.
Sure, but that's their team.
Right, but that's
what it looks like when you go up. Like Vegas, do we think Vegas isn't going to have superstars?
Yeah, but Vegas doesn't have a Connor McDavid that's going to create that offense.
They've got better depth than what you saw last night as well.
Maybe, but what I'm saying is why it doesn't scare me as much is because McDavid was the one that went from end to end and basically created those goals.
Sure. And against Winnipeg, their defensive structure just completely kept you out of the front of the net in that entire game. You had basically almost 0 offensive sustained zone time. So against Winnipeg, we saw it one way. Against Edmonton, we saw it another way. This is now 2 games back-to-back without Dylan Holloway into the lineup where you got beat in different ways against different styles of opponents. That is my fear going into the playoffs. I'm not telling you anybody else has to have that same fear. Last night and the game against Winnipeg, it has me a little spooked about what the likelihood is of this team going on any kind of a run into the postseason. That's what we're talking about here.
Okay. I thought you were talking about making the playoffs.
No. I think this team's making the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we can look bigger picture here.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing right now is really, this is the stretch run to find out what are you made of without Dylan Holloway in the lineup. And right now, my confidence in them figuring it out offensively, it's like a 4 or a 3.
Okay.
It's very low.
Yeah, there's a little bit more concern on that in terms of, I think the offense, I'd still put it at like a 6. I think the offense will figure it out and generate more offense. In the terms of concern of making it a deep run in the playoffs, yeah, I mean, until you get Holloway back, I don't know what it looks like once Parayko comes back in the lineup. Defensively, I expect them to tighten up and you generate a little bit more offense. But, yeah, I mean, my thought was they could make it to the Western Conference Final before Holloway's injury. I'm a little concerned about winning the first round if you get in.
From Manlove, BK, why are you so bleeping negative? I'm not negative, I promise you. This has been an overwhelming success for the 2025 season. Them getting to where they are right now, they had a 12-game winning streak. They broke the consecutive wins mark for the St. Louis Blues. All of that is unbelievable. We've all talked about that, man. If you want to go listen to the happy thoughts, you can go listen to literally the last month and a half of shows. There's plenty of content out there of us being positive. But now we have to turn the page. That winning streak is over. They have now lost 2 consecutive games. They are without one of their, what would you say? Dylan Holloway's been a top 3 player on this roster this year?
Yeah, I'd say he's at least top 3 MVP.
We don't know what form Colton Parayko is going to come back in. Hopefully he's at 100% and he looks amazing and he's fresh down the stretch. That'd be great. But yeah, right now it's okay to be a little negative coming off of back-to-back losses where they just flat out have not looked good. They have not looked like the same team. They look tired. They look like a team that expended a ton of energy to get back to where they are today. And the question is, do they have enough to now make another run once we get into the postseason?
It's the first time you've lost back-to-back games in regulation since January 27th and 31st. Like, it's been an
amazing run.
It's been almost 2.5 months since you've done this.
I don't like the negative vibes. I mean, BK said I'm not being negative and then became negative again.
No. I'm not negative about the team as a whole. Right now, yes, I feel pretty negative about where they're at. I think that's okay. I think it's reasonable.
It's going to come down to what does Parayko look like when he comes back. Because if it's the Parayko we all know, that 4th goal doesn't happen last night and you get to overtime and then who knows what happens in this game. Right now, you're just missing too many pieces to make this team go.
I think if you view me today as being negative, it's because you're being overly optimistic about what their playoff chances are. Because that's what I'm referencing is what does this look like when you play Winnipeg or Vegas in the first round? Yeah. Right now, my outlook for those does not look particularly bright.
Yeah.
That's really what
I mean, I can't deny that at all because, again, I thought this team could take anybody down in 7 games. It's shifted now that I've seen this without Dylan Holloway and Parayko. Does one come back and make it a little bit better? Maybe, but we have to wait to find out.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to talk to Joey Vitale. We'll see if he thinks I'm being overly negative. He's going to join us at 11:30. But next, Oli's managing last night left us a bit puzzled, but it's also not what ultimately cost them the game. We'll talk about that, give you the latest transaction for the Cardinals next year on 101 ESPN.
And the no-hitter for Fetty intact through 6.
6 innings, no runs, no hits, 2 strikeouts, 4 walks. And now he turns things over to Phil Maton.
Popped it up. Bart didn't know where it was initially. It still doesn't. So, Andy Rodriguez, oh my! A big-time collision. He's out at the plate because of the heads-up play by Hayes. But that was a big-time collision. Hayes at the plate. And a base hit. They're going to wave home the runner. Here comes the throw to the plate. It's strong and right on the money. Oh, Tommy Pham, he is fired up. Tommy Pham throws out the speedster Ciani.
This is pretty amazing. All you're betting on or hoping for is there's going to be a horrible throw home.
Bases loaded. 3-2. No place to put Bart. Fly ball left field, plenty deep. This is going to win it. Joey Bart will get the base hit to walk it off. Raise the Jolly Roger. The marathon on a Wednesday afternoon in early April. 13 innings, 2-1 Pirates. They take the series.
I want to make this clear. I didn't like the way Oli Marmol managed that game. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. I said this on the air yesterday. I would have kept Eric Fetty in for, what was it, the 7th inning? Mm-hmm. I would not have taken him out of that spot. I did not like Oli Marmol's decision to do so. Also, that didn't lose you the game. You scored 1 run. You played 13 innings yesterday. You had 4 of them, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. Yeah, 4 of them where you had a runner start on second base. And you know how many times that guy came through to score, Alex?
How many?
1.
Oh.
Just 1.
So
that's it.
So what you're saying is...
For 9 innings, you scored 0. And in the 4 innings where you had a man start on second base, you scored 1.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That's considered runners in scoring position.
Yeah, they were terrible with runners in scoring position yesterday. That has not been a problem for them this year. Let's be very clear on that. They have not had issues with that necessarily this season, but yesterday they were horrific in those spots. Here's Oli Marmol when asked about the decision, again, that I think was wrong. I disagreed with it at the time, to not leave Eric Fetty in the game when he had a no-hitter going.
Yeah, is he going to finish that game? The answer is no. I mean, he's on 5 days rest for the first time. He threw, max of 76 pitches last time out. You're taking him to right around 85, 90 today. He's got less than 10 pitches to work with and 3 innings of game to go. So if you're in the 8th inning, yeah, I'd let him ride and see what you got. But try to cover the 7th, 8th, and 9th. He's not going to finish that game.
I don't know why it has to be so black and white here. No, I don't need him to finish the 7th, 8th, and 9th. Can he get me 2 outs in the 7th, though? And out in the 7th? Can he maybe be super efficient, which he has been for the vast majority of the game, and get me through the 7th inning? Because if so, it changes the way you're able to navigate that 8th and 9th inning. It allows you to just go, in an ideal world at least, Phil Maton in the 8th, Ryan Helsley in the 9th, boom, feeling good about it. I'm going home. Now, ultimately, it didn't matter because the offense never came through. The bullpen, honestly, was really good up until they had to throw Chris Roycroft in the game, who has since been optioned. He has been optioned this morning by the St. Louis Cardinals. Who could have seen that one coming? Alex, what did you make of the way that game was managed yesterday by Oli Marmol?
I mean, I'm in the same line of thinking as you. I didn't like the Fetty decision, and I think it could have set you up for success, but realistically, I can't get too upset with Oli because the offense is what screwed you. Like, you got too aggressive trying to score from third with Michael Ciani in the first extras, and that was the out that hurt you. And then you would put yourself in a position multiple times with guys at first and third and nobody out, or the guy at second base with 1 out, and you weren't able to drive them home. And we're talking about the same guys that have been awesome with runners in scoring position. So big picture, like, that is not a series you can lose, especially when you talk about being in multiple innings with extras to where you're setting yourself and you're getting yourself out of jams all the way to the 13th, and you can't score any of those runs. We've been praising this team for runners in scoring position, and in the most critical moment for you to win a series against the Pirates, to where I didn't think there was a chance of it with Keller and Skeens on the mound, you blew it. And I'm not mad. I'm mad at Oli with the Fetty decision, but it worked in the sense of it kept you in the baseball game still.
Yeah, but we can criticize the process as opposed to the results.
Fine, but the pitching, whether we liked the decision or not, the pitching wasn't the reason they lost that game. So I can't be mad at Oli for that.
Because in a different game, maybe the pitching doesn't go that way, and I have to have the exact same energy, whether it works or it doesn't. I am criticizing the decision, not the results of that decision. Because he has no impact on the results of the decision. He has an impact on, did he put his players in the best position to succeed? And yesterday, in my opinion, the answer to that question was no with the pitching staff. Like, I just don't think he made the right call on Eric Fedde leaving him in the game. I also thought he played the bullpen in a really weird way. He said after the game that he wanted to make sure that they got Ryan Helsley into that one no matter what, because he didn't want him going a full week without throwing, because they have the off day today and then he potentially gets in the game on Friday. Like, he didn't want him going basically the entire work week without getting any opportunities in a game after that blow up in Boston.
All right, I like
Totally
that.
Understandable. However, he didn't go to him in the 9th. He didn't go to him in the 10th. Both of which could have easily been situations where you get walked off. And guess what the result of that is, Alex? You don't get to see Ryan Helsley, which was apparently a goal going into that game. So I just thought overall, it was a really strangely managed game by Oli. You're right, though. What you said, 100% true. That's not what lost you the game yesterday. What lost you the game was your inability to get a hit with a runner in scoring position. And maybe every bit as importantly, because they did have a couple of those, your inability to avoid outs on the base paths.
Yeah.
Multiple times you were thrown out at home. Now, one of them just flat out on Pop Warner. You can't send him. You can't send, was it Michael Ciani in that spot? And the other one was
flat out on Thomas Ajacci.
And I believe a missed call by the umpires. It was clearly obstruction, man.
Yeah, but I think that was on Sajasi too, to where he hesitated. I think if you run into that dog pile, it's going to be an interference.
Forced the issue.
Yeah, you
Totally
can't
fair.
stop there if you're Sajasi.
That's a rookie mistake. If that guy was a 7-year veteran, like, I would probably be getting more on him in that spot.
He would have done
it. Even if it was a 7-year veteran, how often do you see that play?
Never do you see it. Like, even the broadcasters were shocked.
But even if I'm a 7-year defenseman, I see that dog pile and I'm like, I'm jumping in this because I'm getting this out.
Easy to say when we're not, like, making that split-second decision. A little harder to do in the moment. It should have been called that way on the field. Once it's not a reviewable play. So apparently Oli Marmol tried to have that reviewed, and they said, hey, you can't review this. It's not a reviewable play. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to do here? There's not really another option. I think they messed that up. But whether it's the send, it's the decision by Sajasi to not get into the dog pile, like, everything about that game just sucked. Just a really brutal game for the Cardinals. And now where things stand is, you're under 500. You're 5-7 coming back home from what was a really disastrous road trip to Boston and Pittsburgh. You should have taken 2 out of 3 from Pittsburgh. Probably should have had at least 1 in that series against Boston as well.
Should have been a 500 road trip.
And that would have made you feel okay coming home. Instead of 5-7, you're 7-5 coming home to play Philly and Houston. Maybe there's some good vibes coming off of this trip. Instead, this team just cannot buy a win in extra innings right now. It's brutal.
Yeah, I looking at them yesterday, like, I agree with what Alex is saying. Like, it's tough to criticize Oli Marmol since his decisions didn't lead to the loss, but I did think it was his worst managed game of the season, and I've liked everything he's done up until this point. Like, I even liked the way he managed the Angels game where he kept Walker in, for example, and I know you disagreed on that decision at the time as well. But the way that was managed, like, I agree with the Fedde decision. Like he said there, like, well, he's got 10 pitches to go to the inning. Well, it only takes 3 to end an inning. I've seen that happen before.
It happened against the Cardinals yesterday. Well, I think it was 3 to get 3 straight batters after the first guy reached.
Yeah, so, like, I mean, that he can get an inning done in 10 pitches. And even if it is 1 out, that buys you time. If it's 2, I would have pushed him a little bit. I mean, I think it's a little ridiculous that we're already saying this guy's not built up to get to 100 pitches. What it was spring training for, Oli? That's my critique there. He should have gone through 7 innings. Now, if you run into a jam, I'm sure you make the bullpen change, but that's what had the snowball effect on everything. And then I disagreed with going to JoJo in the 10th inning. I thought that was a little bit weird. I would rather have my best arm with a winning run in scoring position to start that inning. And then the other thing, and this is the one that I think is wild, and I don't know if this is on Oli or this is on Helsley. I want somebody to answer this question for me. Why the hell does Ryan Helsley not go out and pitch after 1 inning with a 1-0 lead after throwing 10 pitches?
Because he doesn't throw back-to-back innings.
It's the same reason why Eric Fedde, like, all of this was the same. Eric Fedde didn't go out there to pitch the 7th inning because he was at 88 pitches. And because he had not been totally stretched out, apparently, to where his typical starter load would be. Why did Ryan Helsley not go out there for the 2nd inning? Because he doesn't do up-downs, especially not at this point in the regular season.
They made that clear last year with him.
So when you have both of those things, it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, especially with the Fetty decision. Hey, why hadn't he thrown on regular rest yet? Like, part of that is the Cardinals' own doing. Like, why is he not built up all the way? Well, because in the previous outings, you were taking him out early, too. Now, one of those was a blow-up. That one was a little bit more understandable. But all of this, it starts to snowball on itself. Ultimately, they didn't get the hits. And that's what matters. And then when they did, they got thrown out at home, so it was bad fundamentals in those spots.
I changed my mind. I am going to blame Oli for the loss because Helsley didn't pitch that inning. I understand what you're saying. He doesn't do up-downs. Guys, he's done it before. Let's not act like he can't do it. And I'm not saying they've got to do it multiple times throughout the season. For a team that claims April is so important, there was no urgency shown in that game yesterday.
So you're saying in the 12th. You would have brought him out there for the 12th after you had scored. Walker singles, gets that guy in. You're up 1-0 in that spot. You've got Rodriguez, Frazier, Pham coming up in the next inning. You would have thrown Helsley in that spot to just end the game here. Don't worry about it going into the
tying run is on base at second base to start that inning. So I want my best reliever that is going to close this down. Matz is not your best reliever. Look, I think Matz has been good. Helsley can go for 2 innings, and you're off tomorrow. That's the other thing, is if they played tomorrow, or today, I should say, okay, maybe there's a little bit more of an argument. I would still say you've got to secure that win so you can take 2 or 3 from the crappy Pittsburgh Pirates. And instead, they went with, we're got to go to Matz. That to me was just poor mismanagement, and maybe that is a Helsley thing. If Helsley is the one that's saying, I don't do 2 innings, I don't do back-to-backs.
My guess is that's it, especially in a walk year.
I think that's Helsley.
And then I think that there should be criticism on Ryan Helsley then for that. And I would take all of the heat away from Oli Marmol if that was the case. But nobody publicly said.
Yeah, nobody's going to do that.
Nobody leaned out. I mean, Oli could have came out and said, I don't think he was even asked about that decision. But Oli could say, hey, yeah, that's not my call. You know, Helsley, he doesn't want to go multiple innings.
He's not going to do that.
Oli doesn't throw his players under the bus.
Oh, yeah, O'Neill, never.
I mean, since then, he really hasn't. He's not going to do that publicly. But I think this is a decision where they've come to this publicly together. They have both decided, hey, the best way to keep Ryan Helsley healthy is for him not to go back.
Because the year that he did the ups and downs
for him not
was when he got injured.
Multiple innings. The best way to keep him healthy is to do that. The best way for Ryan Helsley to end up getting paid is to do it this way. We don't have to like it, but that is one of the things that they've come to terms with. It worked out really well for us last year here in St. Louis to watch Ryan Helsley go out there for a full season doing it this way. In that game, it didn't work out. I have more issues with what he did, not bringing Helsley in earlier, and I have more issues with not leaving Eric Fetty into the game later than I do specifically with him not going back out there for that second inning. That one I think was kind of a fait accompli, but it was a bad loss for the Cardinals yesterday. They end up losing in 13 innings by a score of 2-1. They've lost 2 out of 3 in Pittsburgh. They lost all 3 in Boston, a 1-5 road trip rather, for the Cardinals as they head back home tomorrow against the Philadelphia Phillies. By the way, they did make a transaction a little bit earlier. They have officially sent Chris Roycroft down to Memphis. We do not know what the corresponding move is for that just yet. It was necessary. They had to do this. We'll talk about that a little bit later on today. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Joey Vitale joins us next here on 101 ESPN.
Taryn Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues fell to the Oilers last night. They will be back in action on Saturday as they visit the Seattle Kraken. We'll have pregame coverage on Saturday starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 9 o'clock with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. Cardinals off today. They did make a roster move if they have optioned Chris Roycroft down to AAA. They have not made a corresponding move. Tomorrow they will start a 3-game set at home against the Philadelphia Phillies. The Sports Number is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN, and we're happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by our friend, Blues analyst for FanDuel Sports Midwest and 101 ESPN. He, of course, is Joey Vitale joining us here on the show. Joe, we appreciate the time as always. How you doing, my friend?
Joey! Looks like it's not going to be Vegas. It's going to be Winnipeg.
What's up? That was more like it. Alex, they missed you last week. It was weak sauce without your presence of the Joey chant.
Yeah, I tell them all the time that I am the engine that makes this car run, but they don't believe me. PK is our fearless leader, not me, Joe.
Ferrario's the secret sauce.
It is. He has the secret sauce, no doubt about it. Doing well, guys. Doing well. How are you today?
We're doing okay, Joe.
BK's super negative. He thinks his team sucks.
Joey.
They're going to miss the playoffs.
Joey, he was not only negative on the Blues, he's negative on the Cardinals. I didn't think he enjoyed the weather yesterday.
Yeah, it was nice.
You know what?
It was great. We went on a walk with our little guy.
This is what kids will do to you, BK. Just get used to it.
And he's got 1. You've got 6, Joe.
We're renovating the basement, Joe. I drilled into a pipe. It's a lot going on at our house right now.
Listen. It's the first baby. These call them the first baby blues. The good news is you have so much anxiety because you're kind of putting all your eggs in literally one child, where you need that kid to be successful and thrive. And it's kind of all or nothing with one. The secret, as Alex will tell you, as he's well on his way to me, have as many as possible, because then the probability of one of them turning out increases with each child and human you bring into this world. I have 5. If 1 out of the 5 make it, and I'm going to give myself a big slap on the mirror every single morning and say, look at you, Joe. You did it. You did it, young man.
Yep. So this is like poker, where you just want as many outs with your hand as you possibly can.
I look at Adelaide.
He's literally got a poker hand going.
I look at Adelaide all the time, and I say, Adelaide, I'm sorry, Daddy screwed you up, but at least one of your sisters is going to make it.
Yeah.
And then she hugs me and tells me she loves me. But you know what, Joe? All of that goes away once they say that.
Absolutely. So, BK, so it's not your fault, is what we're trying to say. It's okay to be a little moody. It's okay to have a little bit of the wins are the Thursday blues, as they say, but you're going to be just fine.
Speaking of the Blues, Joe, last night was not great. They lose 4-3 in regulation. Another one of those late game situations where they give up a goal. I am curious, where do you stand right now with the Blues and what they have offensively post Dylan Holloway injury?
They have a little bit of an adjustment to make. There's no doubt about it. I think with Dylan Holloway getting hurt, it has shooken things up deeper than I think anyone would have projected, would have imagined. I think that he's a player, and Alex and I were kind of breaking it down in the pregame last night, but he's not a player that you lose and you just sub back in. You know, with him coming out of the lineup, Jim Montgomery has really had to reshift everything, because Dylan Holloway is a player, whether he sees it or not, he has a big effect on players around him. You see this with great leaders in the game. The elite of the elite not only bring their game to the table, but they make everyone around them better. You know, I had obviously the pleasure of playing with maybe the best still in the game in Sidney Crosby. It wasn't just what he did. He had this just unbelievable ability to make everyone around him better. He saw the strengths of players around him, and he catered to those strengths. And again, Dylan Holloway is a long way from a Sidney Crosby, or let's even look at, Alex Ovechkin type. But what I mean by that is Dylan Holloway added something special to Jordan Kyrou's game. Jordan Kyrou has always been a fast player. He's always been a speedster up and down the wing. I think at times Jordan Kyrou has really had the complimentary winger with him that could keep up with his speed. Well, that's what Dylan Holloway could do, and that's what he provided. So it brought, of course, Jordan Kyrou's game to a whole nother level. Now, Dylan Holloway also brought Braden Shen's game to a whole nother level, because he added the speed element to Braden Shen's line, where now Braden has 2 great forecheckers, guys that can go up and down the ice, where Braden can play more of a conscientious, intelligent wisdom game, which I think really caters to what he does very well. So when you lose a player like Dylan Holloway, you're not just losing a little scoring, you're not just losing a little speed. You're kind of taking away a lot of life to players around them. You know what I mean? It's no different than as moms and dads, and mom and dad or one of us go on a road trip, and it's just the energy of the house is just a little bit different. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, depending on the dad or the mom. But the energy changes because they have such an impact on everyone in that household. And for me, Dylan Holloway, certainly as we're seeing now, has had that impact on this team. So it's going to really, I think, test Jim Montgomery. Probably the biggest test he's kind of had to go through here in the last month or so throughout this win streak is how do you reconfigure these lines and find the chemistry without a Dylan Holloway. You know, we're not seeing Dylan skate. You know, I'm hearing some murmurs of kind of what this is. It may be a little bit more serious than we're thinking. And if it is, and you're looking at maybe starting the playoffs without Dylan Holloway, you better start figuring these things out over the next 6 periods because you don't have a lot of time.
So, Joe, we obviously don't know what makes great chemistry, but BK and I have been kind of just tossing around ideas on lines, and I'm going to give you my opinion on it, and I just want your feedback on it. So,
I like this. I'm going to write this down.
What I would like to see, Joe, is I'd love to see Booch, Thomas, and Snuggerud back together. You've just mentioned the speed of Dylan Holloway, and I think the physicality that Bolduc can bring. Put Bolduc with Shen and Kyrou, and then have Neighbors drop down with Sundqvist to play with Dalibor Dvorsky on the wing.
You know, I like the first line. I like Jimmy Snuggerud up there with Robert Thomas. We saw him with some really great spurts in the couple games that he's played with Robert. I think that, you know, I'll give you 2 thumbs up on that one because Jimmy Snuggerud is a shooter.
This isn't sounding good.
He doesn't like the rest of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to give you your props first, and I'm really going to shut you down and humble you in a second.
Good. Good. I'll go cry.
This is just my opinion. This is not gospel. But, you know, Buchnevich and Thomas are distributors. They are pass-first people. They will shoot, and they can score. But look at the way Buchnevich has been scoring goals. I mean, he's scoring right in front of the net. You know, he doesn't have the most elite shot. He doesn't pick his points, of course, like a Vladimir Tarasenko. He is a distributor. And Thomas is maybe one of the best distributors right now in the National Hockey League. I mean, look at the points he's had since February 1. Isn't insane how he can distribute. Now, he's balanced. He can shoot, but he is a distributor by nature. So I think that line needs a shooter. I think if that line had a shooter, an established shooter, and maybe it's Jimmy Snuggerud in a couple of years who can just pick his points. I mean, Robert Thomas could have 100 points in this league. He really could, but he needs a shooter on that line. So I like that. That's okay. I can't take Jake Neighbors out of a top 6 role, Alex. I just can't because of what he brings. I think that, you know, for the physicality, the speed, the tenacity, I think you can't move that player from a top line down to a third line and limit his minutes that way. I think he has to be a staple on that second line. We know that him and Braden Shen certainly have had chemistry over the past. I think Jake has an element of speed that, although not like Dylan Holloway, can complement, you know, Braden Shen there. So I think that Dvorsky too, you know, I've seen goodness in him. I've seen a couple great shots last night. He got himself open for a couple one-timers there, almost scored his first NHL goal last night. But I don't know if the compete is there for Dvorsky yet. It can come, but he's a young kid. And playoff hockey, as we know, I mean, playoff hockey is built for players like Jake Neighbors. He's got to find a way to be on that Braden Shen line because that could be such an important line whether you face Winnipeg or Vegas.
Does that line have enough speed if it is Neighbors, Shin, and then insert player here, whether that's Snuggerud, Bolduc, or Kyrou?
You know, I think it has to, first of all. I think with Kyrou's speed certainly important. I think you just have to, you know, almost kind of adjust Jake Neighbors' game a little bit. Jake's got a little chameleon in him. He's got the ability to play whatever game you need. And I think that's kind of that Swiss Army knife of an Ivan Barbashev, which we've seen in the past. I think Jake has that ability. He's got the scoring touch. He can be a power play guy. He can bring the physicality. Certainly he can fight. Got another fight last night sticking up for Jordan Binnington. I mean, he can kind of play any game you need him to play. You know, he's not going to have the dartiness of a Dylan Holloway. And what I mean by the dartiness is Dylan Holloway's he's standing still with the puck, and it's like, boom, like his first 2 strides to the left are extremely explosive. Jake doesn't have that. But Jake does have the wind it up speed, build the speed, come down the wing speed type of that. So I think that he's got to find that. I think it's got to, you know, for that 3 to come together with Kyrou, for example, with Shen and Neighbors, you know, figuring out what those chip-ins, what those forechecking dumps look like to cater to Jake. Because as we've seen, you know, good systems and the right philosophies within a line can make any player look faster than they really are. I mean, Braden Shen, this is the fastest he's looked in his entire career because of how they are moving the puck, because they're putting him in spaces, and he's using his winger. So I think he's got the ability, BK. It's certainly not the dartiness, like the quick 2 feet strides like we talk about with Dylan Holloway. But when Jake can wind it up, he can absolutely get going. He's got that, and he's got a little, how do you say this politely? He's got a little dumbness in his game where he's dumb enough just to put himself through a wall and just obviously go head first into a 2-on-1 and just doesn't care. You know, there's a lot of players that they have that alert system where, okay, I'm heading into a battle, or I'm cutting to the middle. I got to be a little cautious. I got to be a little careful. They're thinkers. And in the youth hockey world, we call them spiders. There's spiders and there's bulls, right? The bulls just go in. They don't think. The spiders like to kind of sit back and think a little bit before they go. I think Jake's got a lot of bull in him where he does it. And then, of course, he thinks about what he did later, you know, which is kind of like my personality as a dad, too. Like, I say something, I do something like, gosh, why did I say it like that? That's damaging. My son's going to be in the therapist chair in 25 years talking about this. But you know what? Whatever. It's fine. 25 years from now, it's going to be just fine. So, but I think that Jake has a little bit of that dumb bull in him where he just puts his head first in everything. And I think that line, especially during playoff hockey, you can use players like that.
Joe says Neighbors is dumb.
Naive.
Okay.
Naive.
Yeah. Cool. No, just wanted to make sure.
I say he's a dumb bull.
Joe, does Parayko play Saturday?
Place, I don't know. I don't know, Alex. Unfortunately, I'm doing the TV games here. This is the one tough spot of doing TV when the team's on the road because I'm doing them from Ballpark Village. So like I said, the one bad thing is I'm not around the team. All the intel, stuff like that, you get that from the hotels. You get that from the bus trips today. You know, talking to Colton, I could just grab Colton in the hallway and just say, hey, how you doing? What are you thinking? And I don't know. I don't know just yet. If I get any other information, certainly it's something we can break down the pregame on Saturday night. But this is a team that needs him. There's no question about it. He will get inserted back when he is healthy and ready. You know, the question becomes really who comes out. I mean, Curbs and I were kind of talking on the broadcast last night. Tyler Tucker's looked so good. Not just physically, moving bodies around, fighting, sticking up for teammates, but the way he's moved the puck, the way he's simplifying the game. I mean, he doesn't put himself or his partner Ryan Suter in a bad spot very often. But they will need him for round one, game one. And if he is ready for round one, game one, to me, you got to get him in at least one game. You know, the one benefit of maybe not possibly playing him Saturday, you save him for that one last home game because after Saturday's game, keep in mind you still have a couple days off as well. So do you rush it and get him in a game when, you know, I know it's 2 days off now, but you can still have 2 days off after Seattle, which would give him even more of a breather, which would still get him 3 periods before the first game. My gut is telling me he will play that final home game against the Utah Hockey Club, and I still think they're going to rest him here for this coming game Saturday.
Joe, I promise we're not going to keep it for 20 minutes. That's not what we do here.
Maybe.
But is it crazy to think Justin Faulk could be the one that comes out of the lineup? Is that crazy?
Yeah, that's really crazy, okay. BK. You are having a bad day. Yeah, no, you are having
cool.
a bad day.
Time out. I want to make this clear. Yeah. I'm asking this question for my cohort.
Yeah, I was going to say, cool. It's not that the other person on the show is going to bring up the possibility of potentially pulling him out. Can I?
No, we don't keep Joe more than 12 minutes.
I can't keep Joe more than 12 minutes.
We appreciate the time, man. Thanks for hopping on with us today.
Thanks, boys. Have a good one.
Take it easy. That's Joey Vitale joining us here on 101 ESPN. Appreciate his time as always.
I'm not crazy. I'll back up my statement with my chest pumped out.
The tough part is, like, I agree with Joe. Tyler Tucker, it's hard to take him out of the lineup right now. But if you think that it's crazy to take Justin Faulk out, then who are you taking out? Like, eventually somebody has to come out of the lineup. Are we talking about Nick Leddy then? But he's been good.
Yeah. I mean,
Ryan Suter's coming out of the lineup. I don't want that. That guy's a goal-scoring machine right now.
Did you see that top-shelf sauce that he went with?
It was a legitimately impressive goal.
I mean, here, I don't want to steal the thunder of the segment coming up.
We'll get into that coming up at the 12 o'clock
cool.
hour. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Questions and answers coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Yeah, that's really crazy, BK. You are having a bad day.
When you look outside, you see the clouds rolling in. You feel like it's going to rain. This is BK's favorite type of weather, but it's not my favorite type of weather if you don't have Rhino Shield on the exterior of your home. Why? Because when you see all of that rain that's going to come, all of the moisture that you're going to get, if your house is not coated with Rhino Shield's work, well, then you're probably going to have water damage over the years. It's going to build up over time. All of that moisture, all of that UV rays that just beat down on your house in the middle of the summer, that deteriorates paint that's on your home. But Rhino Shield's not using paint. They've engineered their product to outlast any type of paint. What it is, it's a ceramic coating that sticks 8 to 10 times thicker than any type of paint that you're going to put on the exterior of your home. And the best thing about it is it's got aluminum. It works on block, wood, cedar. It's got siding, stucco, asbestos, brick. Anything you've got on your home, Rhino Shield's work can cover it. It's 100% waterproof, deflects 90% of the UV rays, which means you're going to save some money on your energy bills, all with the coating of Rhino Shield. Give them a call today. Tell Darren Alex Ferrario sent you. 877-25-RHINO and give your home a facelift. 877-25rhino.com.
Alex and T-Bone. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line to get involved in the show.
Joey?
Yeah, that's really crazy, BK. You are having a bad day.
I mean, wait for the point, dude.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'll be better.
You're so antsy over there. We get it, man. You love talking.
I'll try to be better.
Who do you think loves talking more, you or me?
The funny thing that people probably don't realize is that neither of us love talking off air.
That's so true. I go home and I'm just a mute.
You know what's funny is I thought he was totally going to say my name because I'm the one I feel like that's willing to talk in the office.
Well, that's because you go back to your apartment if you get nobody to talk to.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I am lonely.
I am very much a get to the point guy. Alex is very much I just don't want to talk guy, especially in the morning. Well, we've come to realize with Alex is like, once he gets his morning coffee in him, he'll be all right. But you got to get that morning coffee in first.
You guys got to admit, though, like, I have not been pissy for a really long time.
I don't want this to come off wrong. No. I agree with you entirely, completely.
Oh, no, I know that I've
stretched
there. Yeah, I know I've made a change there.
Where me and T-Bone would look at each other some mornings and be like, all right, here we go.
All right, well, now you crossed the line. Now I'll shut it down.
True.
Now I'll shut it down. T-Bone and I are friends. I don't think T-Bone would ever think that.
Okay.
T-Bone looks at me and he's like, hey, you good, man? And then we're good.
And we hug it out.
He checks on me.
Yeah.
You pour gasoline on the fire and then walk away from it.
That's also true. It's one of my character flaws.
You were the Joker from The Dark Knight.
All right, from the 573. Hey, guys, how long before we get concerned about Wilson Contreras?
Now?
6 weeks. If he's this bad for not this bad. If he's this bad for 6 weeks.
I mean, the guy's eating batting tape. I'm a little concerned.
If he's bad for 6 weeks, yeah, I think it's fair to be concerned. I'm not there yet. We can have the discussion, and we will, about where he should be batting in the order. I think that's fair game, but
I think that's where my concern comes from. How long do the Cardinals sit there and say he'll be fine?
Sure.
At some point, you've got to make a change if you're the Cardinals and see he's not working.
That's more than fair. But in terms of, like, do I think he's going to be a below-average hitter this year? No, man, I'm not even close to there yet. It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think he's got another 2 weeks before I would be overly worried. I do think there's a fair conversation about where he hits, but I think he's going to bounce back. If he still is doing this and we get done with kind of their 13 games in 13 days, all right, now we're almost a month into the season. Now there is time for some alarm.
Sure. All right, from the 314, guys, is there an unwritten rule on your show where you cannot or will not talk about certain things?
No, because BK always breaks that unwritten rule.
He tries to wiggle in politics.
Yeah, he tries to wiggle in politics, theology. Come on, man.
There's really not. I mean, there's certain stuff where it just doesn't fit our show. Like some things that TMA talks about, we won't. Not because we're unwilling. It's just stuff that we're not all that interested in.
Some stuff we're unwilling.
Sure. But there's certain things that, like the Fastlane we'll get into that we won't. But there's also certain things that we will talk about that other shows will not. Mm-hmm. So every show has their strengths and every show has stuff that they probably won't touch. Not because it's like hey, do not talk about that. No, just that's not stuff that we're interested in.
And the one thing
Bernie used to talk a lot. Sorry, Alex. Bernie used to talk a lot about the Kentucky Derby. He was super interested in the Kentucky Derby. It's not something that like really gets me going the way that it does for Bernie. So it's just different things for different people.
Well, and the one thing that we do is, I mean, we do so much prep work with our show. We're always in communication, whether it's when we end our show via text or the next morning when we're in the office and we're talking. Like, we always are on the same page. It's very rare that one of us walks in and doesn't tell what the other's thinking in terms of like, hey, I want to get into this, and then just throws them a curveball unless BK brings up politics.
Somebody said, you guys want to talk about tariffs? No, that's something we probably won't touch. So that's not an unwritten rule. That's just if we started talking about that right now on the radio, 50% of our audience immediately tunes us out. 50% of you will probably agree with us, and 50% will hate us and never listen to us again.
And then the other 50% will just start cussing us out.
Yeah. Somebody said, would you rather talk about tariffs or theology?
Oh, theology.
Neither.
It depends. Am I having a personal conversation off of the air, or like is this on the radio?
I'd rather talk about the Blues' decision on what to do defensively when Colton Parayko's
on the radio,
healthy.
Strangely, I think it's less devastating for us if we talk theology.
I think Dylan Holloway could be back by Game 3 of the playoffs.
But in my personal life, I'd be more interested in talking about the tariffs.
I'm glad Roycroft got sent down.
I say they ride Jordan Bennington as deep as they can in the playoffs. Look, he's still wanting to bring it up.
I'm about to turn his mic off. He's got me worried over
T-Bone and I are going to take this to the next segment.
I just got to press one button.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers, which has basically become Ask Us Anything.
He's looking for more tariff questions.
Guys, you sometimes change the words of a text to fit your tone or narrative. Very rarely, but sometimes I will change the words of a text to, like, for me, be more clear to speak on the air.
Because some of you don't know how to text.
Hey, man.
I mean,
I just changed.
Okay, you were going the nice way, but like me, like, why don't you check your text before you send it to us?
I thought he meant texting the group. I didn't realize he meant like texts that come into the state. I see.
No, because typically what it looks like, you know those games that you used to play when you were younger where they would like jumble up the word with letters being in the wrong spot and you're supposed to figure out what the word is? Yeah. That's what I feel like some of your texts are to us. Was that mean? I'm sorry if it was. Yeah. It was a late night last night. But fix your texts already. As Doug Armstrong said, I do this to my own mother. I tell my mom to fix her text sometimes.
Coming up in 15 minutes, the Blues actions speak loudly when it comes to their thoughts on Dalibor Dvorsky. What does that mean for his playing time moving forward? We'll get into that coming up here in 15 minutes. Or Tariff Talk, your call. Coming up next, though, is it time for the Cardinals to bump Contreras down in the lineup? We'll discuss it here on BK and Ferrario. Hey, it's BK for my friends over at Victory Men's Health, and it is time for you to unlock your inner champion. There's one place to do so, and that is with Victory Men's Health. Check out all they have to offer today online at victorymenshealth.com. When you go over there, you can learn about their weight loss opportunities, their testing for your testosterone levels, erectile dysfunction, or maybe you're just interested in their vitamin infusion, supplement shop, red light therapy program, cardiovascular testing. They've got it all for you over at Victory Men's Health. For me, it was my micronutrient testing labs that they put in for me. They also tested for my testosterone level to find out where I was over there. I didn't qualify for that, but I did qualify for some stuff with their micronutrient testing. They'll be able to do that for you as well. Tell them what it looks like for you to unlock your inner champion at Victory Men's Health. They have 4 great locations: O'Fallon, Missouri, O'Fallon, Illinois, plus Sunset Hills and Town and Country, where I personally go over there at Victory Men's Health as well. Book your first appointment today. It's a super easy process online at victorymenshealth.com. That is victorymenshealth.com.
if you're going to switch him out with somebody, chances are, with Ivan Herrera being hurt, it's going to be a lefty that you'd switch him out with. But you really don't want to go left at the top of your order, because it really sets up a lane later in a game for an opposing bullpen. And two, the other part of it is you still have a guy that is your guy, right? And you want to make sure that he knows that you've got his back. You're managing for 162. And he's a pro. I'm sure he would be okay with it, but I don't think that he would respond as well to getting moved well down the lineup.
So that was BT yesterday on the Fast Line talking about Wilson Contreras and what the Cardinals' options are with him, because let's just be open and honest. Man, it ain't going his way right now. Right now, he's batting 102. He has 22 strikeouts in 49 at-bats. That is a roughly 45% strikeout rate on the season. That is good for, the worst in Major League Baseball. This is a guy that typically has a pretty good on-base percentage because he walks a ton. He has 2 walks so far this year. He can't see anything that's spinning. If it's a slider away, good luck. He looks like Jordan Walker from last year is what Wilson Contreras looks like at the plate right now.
And what happened with Jordan Walker last year?
It did not go well, and there's no option to send Wilson Contreras down this year. That is not available to you. He's not hitting anything. He's not seeing the ball well, and it's leading to a whole lot of issues at the plate. And Alex, yesterday for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, was the first time where I was really willing to acknowledge, okay, it might be time to move him down in the order. You're 12 games into the season. You do have this clear break between the road trip, coming back home, and an off day in between. You're about to go up against some stud pitchers, man. These next 6 games, you've got Nola, Sanchez, Wheeler, Valdez, Brown, and Blanco. That's your next 6 coming up. I don't think this is a spot where I would anticipate Wilson Contreras getting back on track, given what struggles he's going through right now. I would rather see them move him down in the order. But this is where a manager makes his money. This is where you have to know the player and the person.
Yep.
And to me, this is not so much a decision about, hey, is this hurting your baseball team? Because the answer is clearly yes. You are a worse baseball team right now with Wilson Contreras batting second. This is a question of what's the best thing for him to get back on track. Is it more likely he gets back on track if you leave him there or if you bump him down in the order? I don't know the answer to that. Mm-hmm. If we're just talking purely from a how do the Cardinals win more baseball games right now perspective, well, yeah, you move him. You move him down and you figure it out from there. But it's bigger than that because this is also about not losing Wilson Contreras, the player. And I know people will say, oh, he's a big boy. He's got to figure it out. Yeah, sure. Totally. Easy to say that. Now go into your job and have whatever your previous responsibilities were that you worked your ass off to achieve. After a bad week, go ahead and go back into your office and they take those away from you. How's that going to play over with you? You're probably not going to be thrilled about it. So to me, this is about the person more than it is the player and how it's impacting the team. And I just don't know what the answer is on whether or not you should move him down for the person.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to give an honest answer with this.
This isn't an easy, you just move him down, he's been bad. I think that's what a lot of people will go to. But there's a bigger picture you have to understand with it. And I remember having the conversation with Craig Berube in 2018, 2019 about Robbie Fabry. And Berube explained to me, he's like, look, there are certain guys on my team that I don't have to go to them to explain why I'm doing something. Meaning if I take them and drop them down from the first line to the fourth line, I don't need to explain it because they understand and they'll go out there and do whatever they need to. But he explained about Robbie Fabry. Fabry's a guy that I do have to talk with. I have to explain. I have to give him the bigger picture. I don't know which one Contreras is. Contreras seems like a very prideful individual. So even if you have a conversation with him to what BT is saying, there could be a losing the player in terms of, well, the manager doesn't believe in me. So what am I supposed to do? I'll just figure this out myself. And then you start to have the pushback. You really have to understand the individual that you're working with. And I don't know if I would pull the trigger on this one as fast. I understand it. It's jeopardizing your opportunity to win baseball games, and frankly, your offense should thrive with Wilson Contreras in it, and maybe you could put somebody in that 2-hole. I think big picture, it really hurts you, though, if you lose a Wilson Contreras. So you do have to be very careful with things like this because you're managing the player and the person more than you're just managing a guy with at-bats at the 2-hole.
I think he's got to go down. I think he's got to move to the 5 spot. And I disagree on the, hey, you got to be weary of losing Contreras. Man, Contreras is lost right now, and he's going to figure it out, and I think he will be fine if you move him 3 spots.
What if he doesn't end you because of this?
It's a Contreras issue, not a Cardinals issue.
Yeah, but you can't move off of him.
I don't know if they can move off him anyway. I don't know if there's value for him around the league, but that's not what I'm worried about. To me, you've got to move him down to the 5 spot because you're not putting him in advantageous situations right now.
Second?
I would do now. This is where they're going to have to. This is where they're going to have to abandon the right-left thing. But I would go Newt 1, Donnie 2, Arenado 3. Burley 4, and the reason I do Burley 4 is now I'm kind of baiting you into that left-handed lane, because now if you do want to go left on left with Newbar and Donovan,
switch it the way that they did whenever they went to the left-handed pitchers and they started Luke and Baker in the 2.
Exactly. That's what I would do. This way now I'm kind of baiting you into it, and I'm not too worried about Donovan versus lefties because right now that guy can hit anybody. Same with Newbar. He's got a good enough eye. Now you've brought in a lefty to Arenado, which I like, and I can now flip to Baker in the DH spot. I mean that's what I would do, and I would go Contreras 5. Like I don't think moving Contreras down to 5. It's one thing if we're talking about like moving him down to the 8th spot, for example. I think that's when you would be losing at Contreras because that would be disrespectful to him. Dude, 5, you're still in the top half of our order, and they did this with Paul Goldschmidt. They did this with Nolan Arenado last year. I think now is the time where they've got to make this move, guys. It's very telling when the Pirates are saying we're not going to go left on left. We're going to attack Contreras, which, by the way, a lot of managers don't do that. They still say, oh, the name on the baseball card. I remember this conversation with Danny Mack a couple of years ago when it was, oh, do you face Christian Yelich or do you pitch him? I'm like, pitch him. He ain't hitting. And they did that. The Pirates, to their credit, did that. They said Contreras will not beat us, and we're going to go after him.
No, it's totally fair. And we've got a few texts, and I think they're reasonable pushback against what I said. How can you say that you're worried about losing Contreras after the way that they handled him? The Cardinals absolutely dumped all over him last year, and he still came out looking like a total stud. More than fair. More than fair. They pulled him away from his position that he signed here to play after a month being here in St. Louis. He was fine. Figured it out. They have basically done everything they can to take a big old dump over Wilson Contreras, and he has come out on the other side smelling like roses for the most part until this year, until the 2-week stretch where he has not hit. What they haven't done is what we're talking about, where you move him down in the order, because Wilson Contreras' true identity is as a hitter. That's what he's always been. He always hits, and typically he's been in the top 3, top 4 of a lineup. So this is the one thing where I do think there is a bit of a change on this, but hey man, he came out on the other side of that. If he can do that, I would think he can do this. I think what you're saying there, T-Bone, is more than fair because of what happened yesterday. When the Pirates decided we want to pitch to Wilson Contreras, it's good for us to pitch to Wilson Contreras. That's when I said to myself, and I texted you guys this during the game, full disclosure for the audience, they've got to at least consider this. And now is the first time where I've really been open to the idea that he needs to move down in the order. And if they can make that work, I think that's probably what you do. I think your lineup is the right one, T-Bone. I had the same thing down of Donovan hitting second. Where it gets tough is like Arenado 3, Burleson 4 is not ideal. I mean, you want Ivan Herrera or Wilson Contreras to be in that range, but Herrera's not available and Contreras ain't hitting. Yeah. So you've got to make the adjustment, and now is probably the time to do so.
And I originally considered, because Scott's been playing so well, going Scott in the 2 spot, and then I would push Arenado 3, Burley 4, but now there truly is a left-handed lane, because there is no counter, because you're not going to pinch hit for Baker for Scott, Newbar, or Donovan. They're just not going to do that. Maybe they would do so JC while he's here, but I think he's going down potentially on Friday as well. So I think that's
the
why
other thing. Maybe Gorman just inserts into the lineup here.
Potentially. I don't know where you put him, though. I don't know where you would hit him.
The Herrera injury really complicates things, man.
Exactly, because he would fit perfectly in the 2 spot, and that's why they didn't in Boston.
Know something tough? It ain't easy. This is even harder than taking him out of the 2 spot. Do you sit Contreras for a few days?
I don't think so. I think it's better for him to try and right the ship while still playing. And I get it because they're going against tough matchups. Yeah. Is that part of your thinking?
Yeah. You're going up against dudes that can really spin it.
You can get away with one sit and just say, like, hey, man, just go focus on your batting, go into the cages, like, go work away from the field and don't worry about the outcome of the game. I don't know if you could do it for 2 or 3.
The reason I ask is when Gorman comes back, like, you have an obvious replacement there. And Gorman could fit into this mix that we're talking about of the top 4. You move Walker up a little bit. Like, you could go Nootbaar, Donovan, Arenado, Gorman, Walker, and then Burleson.
Yeah. I
that
think
is a better lineup, objectively, than what you have right now with Wilson Contreras in it. It's even more harsh, probably, than putting him into the 5 slot. This is taking him out entirely. But he would come in probably in a late game situation if they were to put a lefty.
And that is where I think it's too much. I don't think you can pull him. Now, if you wanted to do like tomorrow is an off day for him, hey, 48 hours to kind of reset. We're working on things in the case. They've done that before.
Yep.
But like doing like he doesn't play but like one of these 3 games, I just don't think you can do that as the Cardinals, because to me that is a step too far. That is kind of a slap in the face, kind of like when you say you're not a catcher, you're an outfielder.
Yeah.
Of hey, we can't play you right now. No, he's going to figure it out. That I have no doubts about. I think Contreras will hit. But the one that I just disagree with is I don't think you lose him by moving him from 2 to 5. Where you lose him is saying you're not the starting first baseman anymore. That is where you would potentially lose the player.
Yeah, I think you could make a pretty strong argument. Nola's not a great matchup for him right now, given the way that but neither is Wheeler. Like, Wheeler's a terrible matchup for him right now. So
problem for Contreras right now, his best matchup is like Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah.
And like there's just none of those guys around. And that's why to me, he's got to play. The only way you're going to see spin and hit spin
Fair point.
is play.
And that's what they've been doing. They've basically said, hey, we're going to get you as many at-bats as possible. We'll see what this looks like, because he's been hitting second, which is where your best hitter should be in your lineup, and they've just left him there. The results just have been so awful, man. And it is starting to wear on your team. Yesterday was the first day again where I felt that way, because you ended up scoring 1 run in the game, and the game kept finding Wilson Contreras. So just for his mental pressure, I could see moving him down in the order. Maybe that's the best way to handle it. If Gorman is back, though, I could see them going to Gorman against Nola, maybe Sanchez. Wheeler, though, is also a terrible matchup for Gorman. So the problem is the profile of pitcher that is bad for Contreras is also bad for Gorman. Yeah. It's not like you have a Burleson versus Contreras situation here. It's Gorman also struggles with that low and away in the high heat. All right, coming up next, the Blues' actions speak pretty loudly when it comes to their thoughts on Dvorsky. And Alex, is it realistic for Justin Faulk to come out of the lineup whenever Parayko returns? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. So Dalibor Dvorsky got another opportunity last night. It was a second opportunity with the NHL club. It was fine. Had a few opportunities, had a couple of scoring chances, with good shot on the power play as well. But the playing time just wasn't there for him. Alex, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he had one shift, and I think it was like 30 seconds.
It was 17 seconds.
In the third period. And beyond that, they just didn't trust him once again to be on the ice in the third. What do you make of this, Alex? What do you make of their lack of trust in Dvorsky when they've clearly shown the willingness to do so with other young players?
I understand it. I don't like it. In the scenario, like he took a shift right before the Blues scored that goal, or right after the Blues scored that goal in the third period to make it a tie hockey game. And then the rest of the game, he did not see the ice. They were double shifting Nathan Walker. They were doing that with Toropchenko, with Radek Faksa. And it's a rookie. It's a tie game with the Oilers where they can get the final matchup. They were trying to get McDavid on the ice against Dvorsky. So you know what he's trying to do. And so Jim Montgomery's like, no, we just don't want to put him in a bad spot. I thought he played good. I thought he had two grade A scoring chances with his one-timer, one at even strength, one on the power play. To me, he really didn't have any, like, brain fart moment. I think he was listed for one giveaway, and it was when he got shoved off the puck in the neutral zone. He won a faceoff that he went in. I thought at least he was building some momentum. Was he going to make a difference in the game? Probably not. But one shift in the third period, I mean, that's what they were doing with Matthew Joseph. And Matthew Joseph, and I don't mean any disrespect with this, but he was a liability. Like, you saw the turnover that resulted in the Winnipeg Jets taking the lead in that game, and what happened? They sat him the next one. So do I think Dalibor Dvorsky should have played 15, 16 minutes last night? Absolutely not. But I think you could have had like 3 or 4 more shifts to just see if you could gain a little momentum. Like, you're in a position now, you're not going to have Holloway. Doesn't sound like Texier is going to be an option for you. So your options are Matthew Joseph and Dalibor Dvorsky. And you're desperate for offense right now. Matthew Joseph has just not been an offensive guy. Does he play playoff hockey? Absolutely. He hits. He's heavy on the forecheck, but he also generates turnovers. And for me, if I'm getting 12 minutes out of Dalibor Dvorsky on my third line to where he could generate a couple of scoring chances, I'm going to use that over a Matthew Joseph. So, yeah, I didn't like the usage of him in that game against the Oilers.
I'm 100% with you, and I'm glad you mentioned the offense because that's the biggest thing for me is, look, Joey had mentioned, right, like, hey, I don't know if his compete level's there. I think you can get away with that through the first 2.5 periods of, hey, as long as he brings a little bit of offensive upside, like he did last night, had that great shot on goal on that one-timer on a beautiful pass by Bolduc. I think you can get away with that. And this team needs a little bit more of an offensive-driven, I don't know if identity is the right word, but kind of ideology right now with Holloway out. I think you've got to look at that because you're right. Joseph doesn't bring anything for that third line offensively. And I don't mind sitting Dvorsky in the third period, but not for the entire third period. I would go like the Cairo treatment. Hey, if it's a tie game with about 5 to 7 minutes to go, Dvorsky's not on the ice right now. We just don't trust the compete level or the defense at this point, and I think that's fine. But sitting him for an entire third period, to me, just felt like too much overkill from Montgomery.
Yeah, I mean, it was 11 seconds, by the way.
11 seconds.
And it was his only shift after the 35-minute mark of the game.
Yeah.
He had one shift in the final 25 minutes of the game. So somebody on the text line said, guys, I don't know if this was about Dvorsky specifically. It wasn't a lack of trust in him. No, it was.
No, it was.
This was specifically Dvorsky that they benched. Everybody else was playing in the third period, except for him. So earlier today, Joey Vitale told us, hey, it looks like a little bit of a lack of compete in his mind. And he said he thinks that can get better, but right now he's a young kid, and it's just not there. You can't have that. You can't have that down the stretch. Like I want to see Dvorsky as much as anybody. But if it is truly a lack of compete, if that's what they're seeing inside, well, then you can't continue to play Dalibor Dvorsky.
But which one would you rather have on the lineup? A guy that maybe doesn't have the same compete that Matthew Joseph does in terms of forechecking and finishing checks, or a guy that does show you compete for 10 minutes but turns the puck over in the worst time and you lose a hockey game?
Joseph.
I'd go Dvorsky.
I would go Dvorsky, especially a third line guy.
I think the compete thing's a little overblown, if I'm being honest.
Robert Thomas wasn't the biggest competitor during that Stanley Cup run. He was a third line winger that they said, well, he can provide some offensive upside.
Kyra was on their latest playoff run.
Totally understand. And I'm with you guys. I like the upside. But if I'm looking at this through the coach's mindset, he's going to choose Matthew Joseph in that spot every time.
He did it already.
It's about trust. And they just cannot right now, right or wrong, they can't seem to get to the point where they trust Dalibor Dvorsky. My bet would be he doesn't play again this weekend.
Oh, yeah. My bet is he's not playing Saturday.
My bet is we've seen the last of Dalibor Dvorsky in the lineup for the St. Louis Blues unless they clinch on Saturday. And then on Tuesday, you go with like as many backups as you can get into the lineup to get some guys some rest going into the postseason.
Yeah, you could see a couple of those call-ups in emergency situations. Sure. But my guess is if Texier is available Tuesday for them, Dvorsky will go down after Saturday.
I wonder if Texier is the one that gets that spot in the lineup.
Well, I don't think he's with the team because of that upper body injury. That's why they took Dvorsky on this road trip.
Right, and so like Tuesday, that spot might be one where they say, hey, Joseph and Texier, you're both in the lineup together. Let's see which one of you looks better.
Yeah.
It might even be a lineup, Dvorsky, Texier, and Joseph. All of you compete right now. Let's see who gets that last spot in the lineup going into the first game.
And this would be a moot point because if Texier was available, I'd be sitting here singing a different tune and saying, just send Dvorsky down and put Texier in. But to me, this isn't just one game. Like Joseph had this against Colorado. They didn't play him in the third period. He had this against the other game against Colorado. They didn't play him in the third period. His last 4 games, 10:57, 9:44, 7:52, 9:42. So he obviously doesn't trust this guy either.
Totally.
And I would rather go with the upside of an offense that literally could have, he nearly gave you a 2-0 lead in the second period and nearly tied the game in the second period with a shot. If I'm going to play Jimmy Snuggerud for 14 minutes, who also doesn't have the same level of compete that Matthew Joseph does, but he's just good in certain areas, I'm going to go with the guy that one shot could make a difference on a third line who's going to play 10 minutes.
I do think some of this also might be lineup construction. I don't think you can have Snuggerud and Dvorsky on the same line.
Well, and you also can't have Dvorsky and Sundqvist on a line without any speed. That was a problem last night. Edmonton just skated all over you because you were too slow.
And this is, like, to me, I think Snuggerud should probably be on that third line. We had different constructions of our line, Alex. I would probably go Booch, Thomas, Bolduc on that top line. I thought Bolduc looked really good when he got the opportunities up there. I would put that second line back together with Shin and Kyrou, and then I would drop Snuggerud down to that third line and have potentially Matthew Joseph down there.
Yeah, I'm fine with that one. I know what Joey's saying, and I understand not wanting to take Neighbors out of the top 6, but man, Neighbors and Shen and Kyrou just do not have the speed that brings the best out of Kyrou. But I think Kyrou's always ahead of the game, and then those guys are catching up with them. And by that time, you're talking about potentially offsides, or you're talking about one and done in the zone.
I think Neighbors can be some of that. I don't think it's perfect, but I don't think you have anybody that plays to that degree if you're going to have Kyrou away from that top line. And I think this team needs Kyrou away from that top line. Not because you're not getting enough out of him right now. I thought he looked great last night. I thought it was one of his best games in a while. Probably his best game since Holloway went out. And that's to your point. It's because they all play the same style of game. However, you need that on the ice more than for 15 minutes at even strength. So I think you can get more out of Booch and the same or similar out of Booch and Thomas if you don't have Kyrou out of that line. And I think you can get 80% of Kyrou if he's on that second line.
Yeah.
And that's worth more. That's more valuable than having all of those 3 guys getting the best out of them on that same line. And then in the third period, you can go ahead and push them up there. If you're down, you need to have that offensive punch. That's when you can go ahead and reunite those guys. But to me, that's one of the other reasons is that it allows you for more flexibility in game with your lineup decisions if you have Matthew Joseph in the lineup or Alexander Texier as opposed to Dvorsky, because if you have Dvorsky out there, you simply can't use Snuggerud on that third line. You can't have both of them on the line with Sonny. That's too much for him to handle.
The hard part about this is I think what you really need to happen is you just need to have a conversation with one of Thomas or Buchnevich, and probably Buchnevich in this scenario, and say, like, hey, we need you to change your play a little bit. Like, I know you want to be the distributor, but we need you to be shot first because we don't have a shot first guy. Because then you could put a Neighbors up back on that line and have a Bolduc with a Shen and Kyrou, so you've got the speed and the ability to shoot, and then go the path that you're talking about with Snuggerud on that third line. The hard part with that, though, is you can't do that because Booch is just naturally a distributor. The same with Robert Thomas, which is why you need to have a shot first guy on that top line.
And to be fair to Booch, he has what, a 4-game point? Or
he's got 5 in goals. He's got 5 in 6 games. So I mean, I'm not taking anything away from him. It's just he's right. He is a guy that looks for past first, and you can't have Neighbors on that line if you've got a net front presence and 2 distributors because nobody's shooting the puck.
Last thing that I wanted to get to, Alex, on all of this that we're discussing right now, this is why it's so hard to build with this pack mentality in mind. And it's the same thing with the Cardinals lineup. You pull out one of those pieces, you insert what is a closer to like below league average hitter in there. Like Pages in for Ivan Herrera, you see what that's done to the lineup. It changes things. It makes it a little easier for the opposing pitcher to navigate. You take one guy out, that was a really big top 6 player for you this season, and it becomes easier for the opposition to navigate. Now, if you have McDavid and Draisaitl, again, that's an incredibly difficult way to build. I'm not saying this is the only way to build. It's just easier when you have those guys on the ice for 30 minutes in any given night, no matter what. It becomes a little easier to overcome other losses that are in your lineup. So this is the way that the Blues have to build. It is the way that they probably should have built. It's just a more difficult way to sustain the winning, because if anybody goes out next year, if they have some injury issues that they deal with, this is what it could look like. Yeah. It's hard.
To me, there's 2 things, I think, with this Holloway injury that have become apparent for the Blues. One, the need to find a top 4 right shot defenseman. I think that is a weakness for this team. And the other is you still need a sniper. You still need a guy that can play on that line with Robert Thomas. And maybe Snuggerud becomes it. Maybe Holloway is it. But you still need those 2 items to put yourself in a position where you're looked at as the Dallas Stars or the Winnipeg Jets.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, a little more hockey talk. We got to talk about Justin Faulk. When he returns, Colton Parayko. When he returns, what's the plan for the Blues defensively? We'll talk about that next year on BK and Ferrario.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues fell to the Oilers last night. They will be back in action on Saturday when they visit the Seattle Kraken. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario on Saturday. Pucks are up at 9 o'clock with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. Cardinals off today after dropping 2-3 to the Pittsburgh Pirates. They did make a roster move as they optioned Chris Roycroft down to Memphis. They'll be back in action tomorrow when they start a 3-game set with the Philadelphia Phillies. 7:15 will be first pitch tomorrow. Andre Palante on the mound for St. Louis. Aaron Nola will get the start for Philadelphia. The Sports Update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. CDMLondoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. So Colton Parayko is coming back soon. We don't know if that is going to be on Saturday or if it's going to be for the final game of the regular season. Joey seemed to indicate earlier today, Alex, that this is all vibes, but his vibe is probably for that final game of the regular season. If and when that happens, the Blues have a decision to make because the Blues defensive core has been playing pretty damn well in his absence. It was a big part of why they were able to go on that run that they did. But there's one guy that's not really living up to expectations right now, and that's Justin Faulk. Justin Faulk has 0 points and is a -5 in his last 6 games. He's not been playing his best hockey, and you can see that. Last night, it led to multiple goals for the Oilers. His mistakes in his own zone led to goals for Edmonton. Alex, he's not a third-pair defenseman, so you would not expect him to be the odd man out whenever Parayko does return. You'd think it would be one of Suter, I suppose, Leddy, or Tucker.
Yeah.
How do you view this? What do you think the decision should come down to for the Blues whenever they do get Colton Parayko back?
I think it should be Faulk. And I know that seems very aggressive, but let's go back to the Matthew Joseph conversation that we just had. Matthew Joseph has a big turnover that impacts the game against Winnipeg, and what happens? He doesn't see the ice for the rest of the game, and he doesn't play the next game. Guys, Justin Faulk on that play, the first goal that Edmonton scored 90 seconds into the second period was the result of him making a no-look backhanded pass in his own end that Connor McDavid picked off and then bobbling the puck in the middle of the ice in his own end and couldn't clear it. Now, mistakes happen, but when you make no-look backhanded passes in your own end, that's the kind of stuff that is not structurally in line with what Jim Montgomery and his team are trying to accomplish. And then look at what Tyler Tucker has done since this 12-game win streak. Now, he's not playing as many minutes as Justin Faulk is because Tyler Tucker is only averaging about 16.03. But he's been a +5, which is he's actually a better plus-minus than what Justin Faulk has been. And I know people yell that plus-minuses don't matter. They do when you're playing 23 minutes a night as a defenseman because that means you're on the ice for even strength goals against, or you're on the ice when they pull the goaltender and they try and even up, which Justin Faulk has been. So how can I justify going to a Tyler Tucker who has been, 1, a physical presence for the Blues team that they've desperately needed, 2, he's been playing some penalty kill for them, and 3, he's been arguably a better defenseman than what Justin Faulk has been. And then I go to the other option. We'll pull Nick Leddy out of the lineup. Well, Nick Leddy's been averaging 18 and a half minutes playing top 4 pairs with Cam Fowler, which has been getting some pretty decent matchups. And he's been fine for you. He's had a couple of turnovers, but they haven't been picked out of the back of your net. The reason I look at Justin Faulk in this one is, look, you've got 3 guys right now that are playing north of 23 minutes. And that's not an area that I think Justin Faulk should be playing. He should be probably around what Nick Leddy's been playing, about 18 minutes, and he'll be fine.
Sure.
If I'm putting Parayko back in the lineup, he's going to be eating 22, 23 minutes a night. And then the decision comes to, is it Justin Faulk or is it Nick Leddy? Well, Faulk is the natural right-handed defenseman, but I think I would take him out of the lineup for a game. Now, does he go back in? Probably. But if you're going to make the mistakes that Matthew Joseph gets pulled out of the lineup with, and this isn't just one game I'm isolating with Edmonton. He's had a couple of these. One against Colorado, one against Pittsburgh. He was a -2 in that Pittsburgh game and had 2 turnovers that they were picking out of the back of their net. Yeah, I think I would look at this, and it's not as easy of a decision to say Tyler Tucker comes out of the lineup. No, I think what it might be is Nick Leddy stays on that top 4 pair with Philip Broberg or Cam Fowler, whoever you want to play with. Parayko jumps back in, and Tucker stays with Ryan Suter.
Hear all of that, there's 0 chance of it happening. They're just not going to do it.
Yep, I know.
I think the most likely way that they go about this is they keep the left-handed side the way that it has been, and the right-handed side, you just literally pull Tucker out.
Yep.
And
I just don't know how you can defend that when he's making the same mistakes that Matthew Joseph makes and you're picking it out of your own net?
Because one of them is Justin Faulk and the other is Matthew Joseph. Matthew Joseph was brought here with the understanding he is a 12th or 13th forward.
I'd argue the second one, then the scenario you just painted, is more important than the first. Meaning Justin Faulk is a lot more impactful on this team than Matthew Joseph is.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
But he's the one making the blatant mistakes in his own
he's
end.
On the ice more. If Justin Faulk was on the ice for the exact same amount of time as Matthew Joseph, I think the mistakes would be just as glaring for Matthew Joseph. Obviously, no forward is going to play the amount that Justin Faulk has been playing lately. But Faulk is playing really difficult minutes right now because he's been in that top pair type of a role for the Blues recently. And he's going up against the most difficult matchups, and it hasn't gone well for him lately. I'm not trying to sit here and cape for Justin Faulk. He has not played well. I've said all along, I think that's the spot in your lineup you would most like to improve going into this offseason. It's the easiest way to upgrade from where you are currently. That being said, Justin Faulk, if you're just looking head-to-head, hey, who's the better player between Faulk and Tucker? And I say this as no disrespect to Tyler Tucker, who I think has done an admirable job since being inserted into the lineup. My answer is Justin Faulk. I think he's a better player. I also think he gets more leeway. If I'm trying to think of the best comparison for this, but if who would be the good example? I don't know. Lucan Baker had the same start to the season that Wilson Contreras has had, and they had gone with him in that 2-hole for whatever reason. Dude, he'd be plucked out of the lineup because he doesn't have the same track record as Wilson Contreras. The same is true for Justin Faulk. Justin Faulk's made some bad plays. He doesn't have the same track record, though, as Matthew Joseph. So Joseph is the one that gets plucked from the lineup for making the exact same mistakes as Faulk. Faulk's the one that just gets bumped down to that second pair. Yeah. That's how I view it, at least.
Yeah, and I get it. And, I mean, everybody on our YouTube chat and on our Air Comfort Service text line is saying there's no chance it's going to happen. I agree. I don't think it's the right decision. I think if I'm going to look at a guy, I mean, this isn't just a matter of a puck bounced off of his stick and then went into the back of the net. That common mistakes. He's making no-look backhanded passes in games against Connor McDavid.
It has not been good. There's no justification for the style of play, the quality of the play over the last probably 5 games or so.
And you know who's not making no-look backhanded passes? Tyler Tucker.
He's also, like, when he's on the ice, the offense is completely tilted in the other direction. Like, they're getting hemmed into their own zone. The underlying numbers are really bad. They're not sustainable. I understand he brings a more physical brand of hockey to the table.
I could argue, though, that the other team's getting hemmed in the zone when Faulk's on the ice,
Not
too.
to the same degree. Shots are in favor of the opposition, 35-17 at 5-on-5 when Tyler Tucker is on the ice. When Justin Faulk's out there, it's 42-36. It's not even close. It's like more than double the shots, and that's in the month of April, for Tyler Tucker compared to Justin Faulk. I just wanted to pull out when Faulk has been bad. This is our version of bad for Faulk. The version of bad for Tyler Tucker in terms of the on-ice production is like significantly worse, man.
Well, I mean, this season, Broberg and Faulk have been the second worst expected goals allowed per 60 minutes when they play together. And
it's been bad. But I also think Justin Faulk would be better if you put him into a second or third pair role than what he has been playing right now.
Maybe, but I think he's still making those backhanded passes, and you can't be doing that in your own end, and you can't the one thing that I've seen against Edmonton, I saw against Pittsburgh, and saw a little bit against Colorado, is you're getting out-muscled in front of the net.
Mm-hmm. That's been bad.
Like, you can't get out-muscled. And, like, last night, they scored 2 goals point-blank standing in front. Now, one was on Suter and Tucker. Like, that one, it's hard for me to argue Tucker. That was the Podkolzin goal where they had the delayed penalty. Those guys were out there for a long shift, but still. But when you're getting out-muscled with pucks along the board, and then you're making bad passes, errant passes that end up advancing the zone time, it's just hard for me to look at. And I'm not saying by any means Nick Leddy is this difference maker, but can Nick Leddy do for 18 minutes in that second pair what Justin Faulk can't do? That's my question right now.
Say that again?
Can Nick Leddy do what Justin Faulk has been struggling with in terms of just being out there and moving the puck out of the zone and not making those errant passes?
Sure.
For 18 minutes.
Faulk down to the third pair. I've got no problem with that.
I think
that's probably what will happen. My guess is Faulk goes down to that third pair defensively, Parayko goes it back into that top pair role, and then boom, you make it work.
Maybe, but then you lose an element that I think you need in the postseason with a Tyler Tucker.
Maybe. I also think that's matchup oriented. Like, Vegas is not going to be necessarily quite as physical as a Winnipeg. Winnipeg brings a little bit more to the table. The other thing is you can switch this up during the series. You go into the series, game 1, you see, okay, we're lacking a physicality here. That physical element needs to be inserted into our lineup, and then boom, Tyler Tucker goes back in. You know, this is not a, like, you make the decision before game one. This is not the playoff rosters for the postseason for Major League Baseball, right? You have to make that decision going into game one. For the Blues, like, hey, man, you can switch it up as you go along. With Alex and T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, the junk drawer here in BK and Ferrario. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Alex, the UK is creating a murder prediction tool to identify people that are most likely to kill. Hasn't this been a movie? Haven't we seen this as the plot of a movie where the government,
This was Mindhunters that was trying to, wasn't it? Mindhunters where they were trying to find serial killers before they actually took action?
That's based on psychology with them going in and actually talking to people. This is like a tool that they can look at based upon people's tendencies and stuff. It's like an algorithm.
Yeah, there has been stuff out there.
Wasn't there? I can't remember what it was, but there was a movie where they can stop time to stop the action from taking place.
Sounds like a movie called Minority Report.
Thank
That's
you. What it was.
Sounds like I was going to say it sounds like Time Stoppers.
There's definitely a movie about this. Now we're making it into real life. I am terrified.
I do know there was some type of was it Freud or there was somebody that had a list of these are the reasons why people become serial killers and it was bedwetting or something like that led to it.
Studies based upon psychology. This is there's an algorithm. It's watching you at all times, right? CCTV.
It's taking psychology and tendencies.
Yes, and movement patterns and all of this different stuff. They are effectively spying on you at all times, which, whatever, that's already happening. We can just get into that in our political podcast that we do.
This right here, the cell phone is doing it.
Totally, yeah. They have my movements literally all day long. They're tracking how many steps that I take.
I mentioned to my wife the other day that we need new siding, and I had 15 different emails sent to me that I didn't subscribe to.
100%. I'm fascinated to see where this thing goes.
Hopefully it catches some serial killers before they become serial killers.
Totally. Also, there's some stuff that if it gets into the wrong hands with something like this,
that's
highly problematic.
This is the least. There's so many things right now that I'm worried about. AI could create my voice and put me in the middle of a crime that I didn't even commit.
I'm terrified of that. The Black Mirror episode from 5 years ago now, probably 7 years ago now, where they had that politician that they had the video of him with the pig.
Yeah.
And
spoiler.
Well, I didn't really give away much, honestly. It's the basis of the entire show.
And that was the PG version of that.
Yeah. It was all made by computers. It was totally fake, but there's no way to convince people that this isn't real when you have no ability to disprove it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
And I don't remember where it was, but there was I can't remember if it was a principal or a coach had allegedly used AI to create the voice of the athletic director and got him in trouble, and he reported it himself, and then they went back and they found in an investigation it was him.
Dude, it's one of those things that 95% of the pie I joke around, but there's 5% of it of why I don't like going out places and I stay home. It's because the world is wild these days. It's so easy for me not to be placed in a situation where you just keep your head low and you just kind of stay at home.
They're watching you at home, so.
Yeah.
You mentioned your wife had a conversation
that ring
with
doorknob you've got?
Yeah.
I've tried it. Well,
we're gonna go by Alex's house in a week, and there's
that doesn't watch on you though because it's on the outside. How does that watch you? That's on the outside.
You've got a baby monitor. You got anything else inside?
Yeah, but the baby monitor's not connected to Wi-Fi.
I'm assuming you have some kind of security that probably shows the movement patterns inside of your house.
It's a camera on the outside.
You don't have anything inside?
Oh, no, I have nothing inside. Okay. And I don't have a Alexa or anything like that because I don't trust any of those.
But you have your phone.
Yeah.
It's a little...
Or the way you're talking, do you just hide in the mailbox at night?
No, but I do put my phone on airplane mode at times when I'm at home, but that's only when I'm with the girls.
That explains why you're silent from the chat a while.
Well, no, I'd silence you guys the moment we step out of this building.
No, that's true. I do worry genuinely about what you were talking about, though, Alex. What we do is very easy because we talk so often that the AI algorithm can it can hear our speaking patterns, and it could create something that we never said. But it is impossible to disprove that we never said it.
Yep.
You'd have to go to the entire catalog of our existence on the radio, which for us, Alex, is a decade plus. And so you'd have to find, I'd never said that at any point in this thousands of hours of me being on the radio. Doesn't matter. By the time that you gets to that point, it's already been put out into the public sphere. It's over.
Well, especially when we're up
it's horrifying.
When we're up on YouTube, where people can take if that's the thing. It's if people don't like you or have a vendetta against you, they can make you pay in ways that 20 years ago was not possible.
So it's my biggest fear about for my son who is going to grow up in the age of social media, what does that look like, right? What kind of information is out there publicly for him? At what point is it okay to have a social media platform? Because it's not just this that we're talking about right now. It's also, dude, kids are mean.
Yeah.
And so you get into these situations where there's like bullying taking place. Or I watched the TV show, I promise you I'm not giving it too much away here, but like the TV show Adolescence legitimately broke my heart in ways that I was unprepared for when I began watching that. And it makes you wonder, how much control do you actually have as a parent? The answer is obviously very little compared to what you would hope to. But anyways, that's my
it's the conversations. It's the conversations Katie and I have almost nightly, like daily. Like Adelaide starts preschool next year, and like we are terrified because of just everything that takes place when you're out in the world. And it's like, how do you prepare for that? Like, I can't even, just having conversations with your parents about how they lived, like, life was different then to where they didn't have the same concerns that we have right now. And they still, to this day, worry about you. So imagine the world you live in now with kids.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah,
I'm super excited about it for the next.
Totally going to have irritable bowel syndrome for the rest of my life. Can't wait.
Years. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In 15 minutes, we'll get into Believe It or Not. But next, what's your biggest concern or frustration with the Cardinals at this point in the season? 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. YouTube chat also available for you at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. We're through this road trip. It did not go well for them. What's your biggest concern or frustration that came from it? We'll talk about that next year on BK and Ferrario. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So what's your biggest concern or frustration with the Cardinals at this point in the season? It was obviously a pretty dreadful road trip for them. They lose 5 out of the 6 games. The pitching was no good. And then yesterday, the offense goes quiet against the Pittsburgh Pirates. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is available for you as well at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Alex, for you, what's your biggest frustration or concern about the Cardinals as of today?
I think those are two different, like, frustration is pitching. I can't really be concerned about the pitching because, like, I was very confident the pitching was going to be bad this season, and I didn't know what the answers were until you see Quinn Matthews or McGreevy, and who knows when they're going to be here. Seems like they're going to take their time. I think the difference for me, the concern might be the hitting. And I know that sounds crazy for how much we've pumped this hitting up, but what we saw against Pittsburgh in extras, to me, is a concern as you go deeper into the season because you're going to have to deal with injuries, 2 impactful players. You're going to go through slumps with guys. Does the offense have that pack mentality to pick each other up when things get tough? Because I've mentioned it multiple times. When you got to score a ton of runs because your pitching has been bad, that fatigue can set in. You didn't have to do that in the other game, but we saw what happened in crucial situations that you weren't able to come through with. Do I think the pitching is going to be better than what it was the last couple of years? Yeah, I do. But the concern is how long can they keep that stretch up of being the reason you're winning baseball games, because at some point you do plateau a little bit, and what does that look like?
I have no worries about their offense. I think their offense is going to be fine. That was one game that it's happened so far in whatever it is, 15 that they've played. My frustration, and they're kind of starting to answer to this now, is showing some urgency with the bullpen. And because I think if you can kind of right the ship with the bullpen, throw some numbers at the problem in terms of just bodies, like rotating guys out, like they're calling up Munoz, it sounds like, according to Katie Wu.
Gyro?
No, I don't know. Yeah, Rodri, thank you. And they are, I know, but I couldn't remember his first name. And they're optioning Chris Roycroft. Like, that's the urgency I want to see, because I think if you can kind of find a way to piece this bullpen together, you're going to give yourself a chance, because your rotation everybody's had one bad inning outside of Michaels, who had one completely bad start. But for the most part, the rotation has been fine. They could have won 2 or 3 from the Angels if it wasn't for the bullpen imploding. And along with the Pittsburgh game, one of those Pittsburgh games as well, like Liberatore was fine in that outing. Where it really got away was they went to Roycroft again. I think it was Roycroft, and he gave up like 3 runs. And the game just then ended up being out of reach. So I think my biggest frustration was the lack of movement in the bullpen. They're now starting to get there. And now the other one that I would throw into this is Contreras. I think it is time to move Contreras down. And I'm getting a little pre-mad because they're off today. Tomorrow, he should not be hitting in the 2 spot. I want to see a little bit of urgency. If you're going to tell me, hey, this is not just a retool, but we do need to win in April because we want to bring fans back, well, show that urgency. And I'm glad to see they made a bullpen move today. I also want to see then Contreras move down in the lineup tomorrow.
I don't know that you're going to see that, but I understand the frustration with it. For me, it is relating to the bullpen. It's whack-a-mole. Like, is this going to become a whack-a-mole situation where, okay, you've got Helsley, he's good, but you've got Phil Maton, he's good. What do you have beyond that? And at any given time, it could be anybody that creeps up. And today, it's Fernandez's day to just not have it. Oh, okay, well, there's a ruined inning, and now the game is over. Today, it's Leahy. He's been great for us so far this year, but guess what? He just doesn't have his best stuff today. They got after him, and boom, that's not good. Romero, today's the day that JoJo just didn't have it. The nice thing about what you've had in previous seasons with the Cardinals is you typically had 3 to 4 arms that you trusted, when the Cardinals have been good, at least, in the bullpen. Last year, you had 3 of them pretty consistently. And when you have that, you can build from the back down. Right now, you have 2. And you need at least one other guy as soon as humanly possible to emerge as that third. Maybe it becomes Kyle Leahy. Today, I think he's that guy.
I agree.
That could change this weekend, though, man. You could get into this series against the Phillies. He has 2 bad appearances, and then on Monday we're coming back on the show saying, oh, man, could you believe we had him in our original circle of trust for the bullpen? That's my fear right now. My biggest fear is that the Cardinals bullpen becomes a game of whack-a-mole, where on any given day it could be anybody. And we will criticize the manager for that, because it'll be you should have gone with X, Y, or Z in this spot, not the guy that you went with. But the truth is, he can't trust any of these dudes with the utmost level of confidence right now, which puts that much more pressure on him to leave the starter in, which means that there's a trickle-down effect for the bullpen. Like, all of these just become very questionable decisions, and you end with, I don't really have a whole lot of confidence in any decision that I make from the 5th to the 7th inning. My confidence starts 8 and 9. and I could work back from there, but it does lead to other decisions that are really difficult if you're in Oli Marmol's position.
Yeah, if you can get that third arm, then that is great. I agree. I think they're probably there right now. But it's not just the underbelly, because most teams don't like the underbelly of their bullpen. But will the underbelly give you a chance? And right now it's not.
Yeah, it's blow-up innings.
Because I mentioned that Pittsburgh game where Libby was fine in that outing, but he leaves and there's a runner at first base. I understand that when you're losing, you don't turn to your high-leverage arms. That is smart. I'm not saying, he should have gone to Leahy there. But, he's got to find somebody that you can at least say, okay, he can limit the damage. And right now, they don't have that. JoJo's not that guy. John King's not that guy. Roycroft certainly wasn't. They optioned him down. If your underbelly, if your bullpen can't keep games close, well, then you just don't, to Alex's point, you don't give the offense a chance to really get back into these games. And then that is when I will start to worry about the wear and tear on the offense, knowing we've got to score 7 runs. I don't think they're there yet, but if the bullpen continues to have the whack-a-mole issues, they will start to get to that spot.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear, I'm not worried about the offense yet. I'm just worried about it over time. If you're telling me what's a concern this season, it is the offense over time because of the frustration that this pitching staff is not going to be very good.
The mental wear and tear of every game you go into it chasing. You're just chasing and chasing, and you never feel like you catch up because your bullpen keeps imploding, or the starter gives up 4 quick runs, and it's like, okay, we're always down 4-0. And so as an offense, you feel like, dude, we're just never able to quite produce enough. Even though we're a top 10 offense in Major League Baseball, it's not enough for this team, given the roster construction. Alex, I'm with you. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm actually, I'm totally in tandem with you here. I think over time that can wear on you, and that is why the bullpen to me is such a question, because it can become a problem for the offense.
I think right now, if you were to get those offensive players' truth serum, they'd tell you that they're going into games, with the exception of Sonny Gray and maybe Andre Palante on the mound, expecting to be down by the first or second inning.
And I'm not feeling that way about Fetty. I think Fetty just had a bad day. I think we have enough track record now over the last 1+ year of Eric Fetty to say that guy's going to be fine. I don't think he's going to be great, but I think he's going to be fine. I think Liberator has honestly been mostly fine so far this year, but we don't have to get back into that conversation. We got this from the 618. Guys, isn't this supposed to be the year that you develop bullpen arms, though? Kinda. I think to a degree, yes. The problem is what that looks like. Developing bullpen arms at the major league level is incredibly difficult unless you already have those guys that you trust at the back end. Because can you develop a guy in the 5th or 6th inning? Absolutely, you can, especially when you're down or up big in those innings. That's possible. But when you're putting them into high leverage situations, and there's no way to hide from it, there are just certain days where you're not going to have at least one of Helsley or Maton. Dude, these guys have to throw in the 7th and 8th inning. You're potentially up 3-2 or down 3-2. Good luck. So, yeah, yes, technically it is a year that you can develop bullpen arms, and that's part of the benefit of having this flexibility, multiple spots that you can use that 55 corridor with. However, when the development goes in a negative direction, which is what we're seeing right now, which is always in the range of outcomes, is what it looks like, man. So you got to, if you want the good of potentially developing an arm, you also have to take the bad that comes with it, which is you're going to get some implosion innings. And that means you lose that day. Full stop, that dude goes in, gives you no chance, game over when they leave. That sucks, and it's hard to deal with in the moment, and that's the reality of where the Cardinals are at right now.
Yeah, and I just don't have that same kind of, they've got to develop internal bullpen arms. They need 2 to 3 spots on that bullpen roster that they can churn through, because some guys will have it for a year. You guys remember Cody Whitley? Man, he was good for a year. Yep. And then it was just gone. Snap of the finger, it's gone. There is a realistic chance, and I hope this doesn't happen because I do like his stuff. There is a realistic chance we never see Chris Roycroft again. And it's just gone like that. It happens to bullpen arms. And that's why when they were operating, this was where my frustration was, where they were saying, we're working on developing a Chris Roycroft. Man, I'm sorry. If he doesn't have it, then go develop it in AAA. You've got to bring guys up here and just keep churning through this bullpen. They may find out Munoz works and he sticks around for a year. And guess what? Next year, he may not be on the Cardinals roster because he doesn't have it. That's the business of bullpen arms. David Bednar, we keep bringing him up. He's the perfect example of this. One of the best closers in baseball 3 years ago. Guys, he's down in the AAA system for the Pittsburgh Pirates right now because it just disappeared on him.
Can I read you guys a quote and you tell me how you feel about it?
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Is this going to piss me off?
Maybe. You just tell me how you feel. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. The YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. No, it's a quote. I just want to give that out right before I read this.
Good.
Quote, today's a tough day to go out there. You can tell with both teams. That game on Tuesday, it took a lot out of a lot of people.
See, bad text.
You played a lot of extra inning games. They've done well. Unfortunately, we have come up on the wrong end of some of those, but all of those, just editorializing there. But I like the way that we've game planned going through, and the guys' execution has been really good. I feel like we're heading in the right direction. Do you want to win more games on the road trip? Absolutely. But if you look under the hood, there's a lot to be positive about, so you got to keep building on those. I really want to focus on that first part.
Read it again.
Today's a tough day to go out there. You can tell for both teams that game on Tuesday took a lot out of a lot of people. How do you feel about hearing that from Oli Marmol after yesterday's game, Alex?
Angry. You're going to start making excuses 2 weeks into the season?
It's an explanation.
No, it's not an explanation.
No,
it's an excuse.
Yeah,
it's an
that's
excuse.
Just giving you the devil's advocate.
Rickoff had a blister on his finger. That's why he couldn't throw strikes. Now that's an explanation.
This was legitimately their first road trip of the season. And we are already down the path of, well, there's a lot that went into it. Emotionally, it was draining for these guys to come out.
Dude, it was cool.
It was. Fetty had a blow-up start, which meant that you had to go to the bullpen early, and then you had a rain out on Saturday, which meant you had to play an extra
which means you were off all of Saturday.
On Sunday.
Means you were off all of Saturday.
You did have to play 19 innings on Sunday.
But you were also off on Thursday.
And then you went into a road trip at Pittsburgh, where it's like 30 degrees for all 3 games, and on Wednesday you have a 13-inning game. From Sunday up until Wednesday, you played cold games. You played...
I almost just cussed on the air. You got to be kidding me.
Played 5 extra innings in a 3-day stretch.
With an off day in there.
No. Sunday to Wednesday. Sunday to Wednesday.
Yes, but you had 2 off days prior to Sunday.
Wait, how many extra inning games
you
did you say?
played 5 extra innings total from Sunday
I thought
to
you said
Wednesday.
5
You had the 1 extra
games.
inning on Sunday and then the 4 yesterday.
Yeah, still, I don't care.
Ollie, let me grab your hand and walk you down Market Street so you can look inside Enterprise Center.
Is it cold? Is he going to need a jacket?
No, it is probably cold in there. Okay. Let me show you a team that played...
Did they have any travel issues?
Yeah, legitimately, I think their plane couldn't leave Minnesota for 1 game, and they had to wait till the next day and go play a back-to-back. Yeah, it was a back-to-back, mind you.
I was checking.
Just, come on. Let me walk you down. This team right here played 12 games in 21 days with 3 separate road trips involved in there. And also, 2 of those road trips were legitimately, you fly out, play a game, fly back home. And you're going to start complaining to me because you played 2 games where there were extra innings, and it's pretty cold in Pittsburgh.
And just like the Blues, Cardinals missing their best player. Didn't stop the Blues.
I might be stopping them now.
Yeah. and also the Blues are missing...
I meant Parayko. Holloway was healthy at the time.
I was going to say, and to be fair, the Blues are missing 2 of their best players.
Yeah, sorry, I meant Parayko at the time when you were going
the Cardinals. They've got Gorman and Ivan Herrera out.
Yeah, the dude that couldn't even make the starting lineup. If we are going to start now on April 10th saying that the reason the Cardinals are losing games is because there's a lot that went into it and we're exhausted, I can already tell you, get the bleep out of here is going to be my explanation for the rest of the season.
Can you play Ollie's audio again? I didn't hear it. It's not audio. It wasn't part of the post-game.
I wonder why.
Press conference that was made available by FanDuel Sports Midwest. But here is the quote. Today's a tough day to go out there. I just hate that one in general. Just don't say that publicly. You can't say that publicly. Then he continues. You can tell with both teams that game Tuesday took a lot out of a lot of people. You played a lot of extra inning games. They've done well. Unfortunately, we've come out on the wrong end of some of those. All of them, just to be clear.
I love your editorial.
I mean, it's true. They have not won an extra inning game so far.
I love the fact that BK was
0-4?
trying to defend Ollie when, BK's the travel guy.
I wanted to present the other side because I know all of us are on the same side on this one. I hate it. I hate the quote so much. You guys know how much I dislike the whole, whether it's blaming travel or the circumstances of the game. Dude, go play better. I know that's not an easy thing to do sometimes. There are days where you legitimately just don't have it. Cool. Then just say we just didn't have it today. We got to be better on Saturday. That's it. Or Friday. You don't have to say anything more. There are days that we don't have our best show, Alex. There are days where you come in dead-ass tired. Alex this morning came into the office and said, "I can't even talk right now. I'm so mush-mouthed. I got like 4 hours of sleep last night."
I haven't been able to put words together.
And to be fair, I was like a 7 out of 10 shot for Alex, but he's doing his best down here, man. I'm kidding. I just felt like that would go well.
Did you feel like that would go well?
I hate these excuses so much,
Dude,
man.
if you're
Just go out there and play. If you lose, you lose. You didn't play well yesterday. It's okay. Just acknowledge as
those
much.
poor baby birds, and it's so cold out in Pittsburgh.
They act like the Pirates were playing in the cold. Like, Pittsburgh. Yeah, when the Pirates took the field, it was like 70 degrees.
If you're gonna start,
what are you talking about?
If you're going to start making excuses every time this team is going to lose series that they should have won, just stop. Just stop now. Because nobody is going to be here for that BS.
I do agree with this point on, like, there's a lot of positives to take from the first three.
Nobody's denying that.
I 100% agree with him. The offense has been really good so far. I do think that the starting pitching, like, it gets a bad rap because of a couple of bad starts. Most of the season, let me be very clear, most of the season, they've had more than enough from their starting pitching to be able to win these games. The bullpen has been imploding. Some of that you can blame on Oli, sure. A lot of it is just they don't have enough quality arms coming out of the back end of the bullpen right now. I just hate this quote so much. It's totally unnecessary.
Oli should have had FanDuel scrub more of that comment before they were leaked out. Because that's soft. You can't be that this and early in the season.
And this team isn't soft. That's what's frustrating, dude. They have shown so much mettle to come back in some of these games.
But he's the voice of the team.
I know. It just sounds really bad.
You cannot do that.
It sounds really bad. All right, coming up next, believe it or not, here on 101 ESPN.
Man, so glad this is back.
Missed it last week.
Yeah. Whose fault was that?
We should have still
Big
sung
shot.
it. It's BK's fault.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so
free, flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
Believe it or not, it's just me.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for Believe It or Not. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are believing it or not.
I got a little tickle in my throat. No excuses, Ollie. No excuses.
Yeah, can I actually start Believe It or Not? Believe it or not, if the Blues play the Winnipeg Jets in the first round, they'll lose in 4 because typically it's freezing in Winnipeg in April.
No, first of all, not fair. Second of all, I will not believe that.
I mean, that's spring weather that they're going to be in snow still. Like, I don't know how a team that could play in that type of environment would even be willing to go out there.
It's a really good point. My first Believe It or Not, guys, believe it or not, we have 2 quarterbacks selected in the top 5 of this year's NFL draft.
Believe it.
Seems pretty clear there's going to be one. I believe Cam Ward will be the number 1 overall pick. Former Miami quarterback, former Incarnate Word quarterback, former Washington State quarterback. He had quite the travels.
He's got a lot of formers under his name.
Believe it or not, we will see 2 quarterbacks in the top 5 this year.
I think we're going to see 2. I don't buy this whole Shador's falling out of it. Like, we were talking about a dude who's got 4.5 sacks in his college career as a potential top 5 pick. No way. I think we see Shador either go the 2nd overall pick, or I think we see him go somewhere in 4 or 5.
I'm saying not. I do not believe this will happen. I think Shador ends up falling more than we expect.
I think I'm with you because I don't think he's going top 3. Because I think Cleveland's going with Travis Hunter. I think you're going to see the Giants go with Abdul Carter. And then once you get past that, New England doesn't need a quarterback. Jacksonville doesn't need a quarterback.
You could see a trade up.
I think you'll see a trade up. Well,
that's the thing is I was trying to figure out, does anybody want to trade up? And I don't know if they will. So I'm going to say not believe it. I think he's going to fall.
I think we see a trade up, too. That's not a potential. I gave you mine. Believe it or not, they don't win in Winnipeg because it's cold. Believe it or not, guys, when Colton Parayko returns, he looks just like what he did prior to the injury.
I'll believe it. They've had him out for a while now. I think they're being pretty cautious with this. I'll believe it.
And I think that's big because, man, he brings offense back. Like, remember the one we were worried about defense, but we were also worried, like, who's bringing the 15 goals that he has scored? And now that you've lost Holloway, I think Parayko could really help with that. I'm believing this one as well. I think he goes back to being the same player.
Yeah, I'll believe it. I don't have overly concerning thoughts on, he's not going to be the same guy. Because the way they talked, it sounded like they were happy with the way that the scope went. Like, it almost felt like they felt like there wasn't much damage done to the knee. So I'll believe it. I think he'll come back and be fine. Guys, believe it or not, Kyle Leahy will be this year's version of Ryan Fernandez.
Like a guy that emerges as a clear third wheel of the... Yeah, I'll say believe it. I hope that's the case. This is me being optimistic, because if it's not him, I don't know who it's going to be. But sure, I'll believe it for now.
Yeah, I was going to say, who's the second wheel? But I guess Phil Maton would be considered, because I kind of wondered if Maton was that guy. But yeah, I'll believe this one. I don't know who else it would be. My only other hope, I guess, would be O'Reilly O'Brien if he's as good as we think he is, but skeptical of that. So yeah, I'll say Leahy.
I would believe this as well. I think he can become the 7th inning man. And he's got multiple pitches that he can go to for righties and lefties. His stuff looks really good. I think he's going to become that guy. And then the hope is Fernandez or JoJo, one of those two, become the 4th guy. If you can get one of JoJo or Fernandez really going again like they did last year early on, this bullpen will be able to really stabilize and help this team out.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for Believe It or Not. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are believing it or not here on BK and Ferrario. Believe it or not, Alex, the Cardinals will finish 72-90 and Oli Marmol is fired. That comes from the manager, Lou Brown. I'm going to say not. I'll go ahead and give us a start. I do not think that they will only win 72 games this year, and I have no idea what Ollie's future outlook is because I don't think anybody does.
Those comments aren't helping them.
Time.
I'm not going to believe this. I don't think you finish with 72 wins. I think you're somewhere between 75 and 80. I do really wonder if Ollie is gone after this year, especially with all of these options that could be emerging.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely in the range of outcomes there, a 90-loss team. I don't know what that would mean for Ollie, because I think Heim, if he's open and honest with himself, could look at this roster and go, this wasn't on Marmol. This was a bad roster going into the year. I mean, we had questions about the pitching. I had questions about the offense going into the year. I'll say not believe it just because I don't think Oli will be fired. I think Chaim Bloom will keep Oliver Marmol no matter what happens this season, unless there's like an epic collapse.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from, this comes from Twitter. Andrew Filipponi, who covers the Steelers up in Pittsburgh. He said, Watt heard a media report that the Steelers want to re-sign him, but it would be less than Myles Garrett, and that did not sit well with him.
So we went to Instagram and put a picture out of him with a deuces sign.
Mm-hmm.
And
believe it or not,
that's a grown-up reaction.
TJ Watt will play for somebody else within the next 2 years.
Yeah, not.
You think he sticks in Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah, I'm not going to believe it either. I think he'll end up signing. That may have been leaked, and whether that was the actual goal for the Steelers or not, their identity is their defense. I mean, their identity is TJ Watt, point blank, period. So you got to pay that guy what he wants. So I'm not believing this.
I just what do you think you're doing, Steelers? You think you're going to get him for less than what the top paid
the old friendly team
edge rusher is in the NFL? Like they've got a rivalry, Myles Garrett and TJ Watt do. We saw that play out on Thursday Night Football, where Myles Garrett said after the game, yeah, I'm the best defensive end in the NFL. TJ Watt believes that he's the best edge rusher in the NFL, and he's got a pretty good case for it. I don't know that I would take him. I would probably take Myles Garrett, but whatever, it doesn't matter. It's about the timing, and his contract is coming after Myles Garrett, so guess what? It's going to be $1 more.
I think TJ Watt's got the better stoop to stand on, considering Pittsburgh's always in the playoffs and Cleveland has only been in the playoffs a few times.
It doesn't really matter. Like, whichever side you're on, it does not matter. Whoever gets the contract second is the one that gets paid more.
Yeah.
So if you're the Steelers and you thought you were going to get out with less than that, that's on you, man. You have nobody else to blame but yourselves. All right, final thing here. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. This comes from Vazini. Alex, believe it or not, 95 points is still the magic number for the Blues to make the playoffs. They're at 93. So
now
one more game you're in.
Now you're taking me back to the Charlie Day moment last night at 12:45. Yeah, I think so. I think if you get
still has 4 games left.
I think if you get to 95. So here's the scenario I figured out last night. I'll take you down this path. Calgary plays Minnesota tomorrow. If Calgary loses in regulation, the Blues need just 1 point against Seattle, and Calgary's eliminated because they can't catch the Blues.
That's correct.
If Calgary, thank you. If Calgary loses in regulation or overtime, the Blues need 2 points in any scenario, and Calgary cannot catch the Blues.
If they lose in overtime or a shootout.
What did I say?
Regulation or overtime.
Yeah. If they lose in overtime or a shootout. See, I'm back to Charlie Day.
So if they get 1 point tomorrow,
then the Blues need to get 2 points in any fashion, and Calgary cannot catch them.
Yes. As long as the tiebreakers go in their fashion, I'm not sure exactly how it would work.
Yeah,
but
because then they'd only have 3 games left, Calgary would.
Can I just go ahead and answer their question real quick? Because it answers yours as well.
Whoa.
Believe it. 95 is the number. If you get to 2 more points, I think you're probably getting in. Calgary right now is at 88. They have 4 games left. They have a possible 96 is basically where they're at. They would have to get points in every game the rest of the way in order to catch you. I think you're getting in if you get to 95.
Unless they fall in regulation tomorrow night and the Blues pick up 1 point against Seattle, then the magic number would be 94.
Because then they wouldn't get points in every game.
Just ridiculous. I will say believe it. I actually think they might be safe with their 93. I mean, I saw the Calgary game last night. I watched a little bit of the final 5 minutes. I saw them give up when their playoff lines are truly diminishing in front of them. They're playing the Anaheim Ducks, who have nothing to play for, and they gave up 2 goals in a 9-second span.
Yeah, because they would have to just tie with 5 points out of their possible 8.
It's going to be so hard for them to come back. I think the Blues are safe at 93, but yes, I will believe 95 is definitely the magic number for them to be safe, I would say.
Because Calgary's taking on Minnesota, who still has something to play for. San Jose doesn't, but still put 8 up on Minnesota last night.
Ridiculous.
Vegas kind of does, kind of doesn't. They're comfortable. LA absolutely is going to have something to play for because they don't want to lose home ice.
We'll get a little bit more on this coming up next. Want to hear from you guys. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. It's the first time that I've seen some of this bubble up, Alex. Is there any concern that this team would miss the playoffs? And if so, what would that mean for them? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendricks here. They Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues fell the Edmonton Oilers last night. They'll be back in action on Saturday as they visit the Seattle Kraken. We'll have pregame coverage starting on Saturday at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 9 o'clock with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. Cardinals off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow as well as they start a 3-game set at home against the Philadelphia Phillies. The Sports Update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Last thing that I wanted to get here to today on the Blues, Alex, is what's your level of concern about them missing the playoffs? We've talked to people, whether it's in our personal lives or just on this. People are a little worried now. I wouldn't say it's bubbling up too high, but it's a concern nonetheless after these 2 consecutive losses. Do you have any worries at this point, Alex, about them completely missing out on the playoffs?
I went from like a 0 to a 1 after last night. Like, if they would have gotten a point last night, I would still be at a 0. But because you lost in regulation, look, there's a path for Calgary, but the path basically involves Calgary doing something that they have not done all season and something that the Blues have not done since pre-Four Nations break. So it's very minimum in terms of the concern. I think the play over these last couple of games has at least put that negative thought in my mind that, hey, like this could go the complete opposite direction. But, you know, you look at the 2 opponents that they just lost to versus the 2 opponents that are coming up, and it's hard to fathom this team losing 2 more games in regulation.
Yeah, I mean, Hockey Reference has you at a 93% chance to make it to the
Money
postseason.
Puck is 97.1.
Money Puck is 94% chance as of today. If you win your next game, that'll go up to 99.
Yeah.
You literally just win 1 more game. So if you are of the opinion that the Blues will lose their next 2 games in the regulation, there's a real legitimate concern.
There's a concern.
What is the level of concern? I would say I would go from Alex's 1 to like a 4.
I was going to say, I'd be probably like a 3 because then Calgary has to win 4 games.
Your 12-game winning streak put so much pressure on the Calgary Flames, and I don't think they are good enough to take advantage.
Yeah.
I hope that I didn't just BKO it, but I do not believe
I didn't even think of that.
They are good enough to take advantage of this. I will tell you this, Vegas definitely doesn't want to see the Blues, and even though that's unlikely at this point, but they don't want to see the Blues. Maybe they lay down and don't play any of their starters against Calgary coming up by the end of the season. LA will have nothing to play for in that final game.
See, I think
would be
they
really
will.
nice is tomorrow. If Minnesota beats them, you feel pretty good.
Yeah, if Minnesota could get the job done tomorrow, specifically in regulation, or just get it done in overtime or a shootout, you feel great. But LA is the one that will have something to play for because they're not going to want to fall out of home ice advantage playing Edmonton. And Edmonton, LA still has a game in hand, but Edmonton's only 2 points up on the Oilers, and the Oilers are getting their players back. So I think the 2 games that are actually going to really mean something against Calgary is Friday and then that last Thursday of the regular season between the LA Kings and the Calgary Flames. And yeah, I mean, look, Minnesota could get the job done tomorrow. Again, if they win in regulation, the Blues just need a point. If Minnesota wins in a shootout or overtime, the Blues need 2 points, and then it's over.
He's Alex, the T-Bone. I'm BK. The Rewind coming up next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Shaver Door Company.
That 101 ESPN app is free to download. Super easy to use. It is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. You can check us out, as always, on YouTube as well, youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. It's where the graveyard chat is always lively over there, so check that out before the show, during the show, after the show, youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. We'll finish the show where we started it today, which is with the St. Louis Cardinals, Alex. Rough loss for them yesterday. They went into extra innings once again. They could not scratch across more than just the one run that Jordan Walker drove in. 2-1 in 13 innings. None of us were particularly thrilled about the way that the game was managed by Oli Marmol. We all would have left Fetty in for a little bit longer, and then the usage of Ryan Helsley, whether it was T-Bone wanted him to go multiple innings or I wanted him to be a little more aggressive getting him in earlier. It was just a weird game. But ultimately, that game was the outlier of the season, and that your offense lost you that game. You did not score more than a run. You can't expect to win many games when you score one run over the course of 13 innings. Frankly, you can't expect to win any games that way. Alex, where are you at with the Cardinals right now? How are you feeling about them? 12 games into the season, 5-7 overall record, but a lot of the heavy lifting was the 4-2 start.
Yeah, optimistic about the future because I do think the offense and a lot of these young guys have given you signs of like what could happen, especially when Chaim Bloom takes over. But I think this season is going to be a dud, and I think it's going to be right in line with what I thought. 80 wins, maybe at best, maybe 75 wins. You know, the one thing we didn't get to, maybe we'll get to tomorrow, as T-Bone brought it up, you lost all of your opportunity to kind of put yourself in the driver's seat in the first month of the season by losing that series to the Pirates and then getting swept by the Red Sox. And really the Angels won as well. Like, you're about to go on a 13-game stretch, and Ollie's already complaining about the schedule. Now you get no days off, and you're taking on the Phillies, Astros, Mets, Braves.
Good luck.
And you lost the series to the Angels. You got swept by the Red Sox, and you lost the series to the Pirates. You're, 2 games under 500 when you probably should be about 3 games above 500? If I'm doing that math correctly, which I might not be. You put yourself in a really bad position, so it feels a lot like a team that could be at 75 wins this year.
Losing these 4 extra inning games is just brutal, man. It takes away all of your potential margin for error.
Yep.
That's what it did. Like the beginning of the season, if you had gone 2-2 in those games instead of 0-4, which feels realistic, you should win about half of the time when you get to extras. Right now, you'd be sitting 7-5, and hey, man, if you came out of that 13-game stretch that we're talking about, and you were right around 500, I don't think any of us would have been shocked by that. I think that's actually what I predicted, is them to be about 2 games below 500 at that point in time. That felt right. And instead, now you go into it and you're thinking to yourself, man, this ship be sinking. Like that's got to be the thought in a lot of Cardinals minds right now. Philly, Houston, the Mets.
Yeah,
that's what's coming up.
Without any help coming on I know they optioned Chris Roycroft, but there's no help coming.
You lost 2 out of 3 against Pittsburgh and LA, and I'm not talking about the Dodgers.
You wouldn't have won a game against the Dodgers.
That's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I think they can salvage this as long as they show some urgency, and I think sending Roycroft down is a start to that. I think the leash for Michaelis is going to be a lot shorter, or I would hope it's a lot shorter than we might be expecting. I know they're concerned about their pitching depth, but man, you got an offense that can play with anybody. I mean, look at what they did to Paul Skeens in Game 1 of that Pittsburgh series. Like, they look great in that. They look great. They gave competitive at-bats. They've done a good job. I mean, you mentioned all the extra inning games, so they haven't come out on top. Some of those, the offense forced extra innings.
Absolutely.
Because they came back in those games, especially that Angels one where they came back, I think, twice. Once in extra innings down by 3, when I thought all hope was lost. So they've got the offense to keep them in games. I think the rotation, for the most part, has been fine outside of one blow-up inning for just about everybody. Those will start to dissipate. It just comes down to the bullpen. Can you fix the bullpen, and can you also get rid of that black hole right now that is Miles Michaelis in your rotation?
Somebody said you would be 7-5 in that 13-game stretch if you went 2 games above 500. Talk about math. Okay.
Yeah, well, I knew I did that math poorly in my head.
7-6 then. If you went 7-6 over this 13-game stretch, and you finished it, and you're 12-13 afterwards, that's not getting anybody super excited. Totally understand that. I think you'd feel fine about that.
It's better than what I thought they would be at the first month of the season.
I think most Cardinals fans would be like, all right, we're in the midst of a retool. We're right around 500. I would imagine at that point the division probably hasn't pulled away from you in a huge way. It's all right. you've got an offense that's clearly showing that they have the ability to hit their stride, make a couple of pitching changes here and there. To T-Bone's point on the bullpen, maybe you end up with McGreevy or Quinn Matthews coming up sooner rather than later. You could make that work. Teams have come back from far worse than that. So if they were able to get there, you'd feel fine about it. It just sucks that you're starting from a position of weakness as opposed to a position of strength going into what is going to be the stretch that dictates how do Cardinals fans, even if it doesn't dictate the ultimate result of the season, this is what the stretch that will dictate how Cardinals fans feel about this year. I know that's placing a ton of importance on a 13-game stretch. Man, we saw this 2 years ago. What can happen? If you sink your season, it's over. Last year, I was looking last year at what they ended up doing in the first half of the season. Dude, they were 48-42 through 90 games.
Yeah, but you know where everybody was checked out?
When they were 15-24.
Yep. You lost to the Brewers, you lost to the White Sox, and that's when it was, this team's not good.
Yeah, they had a stretch there where it was Tigers, White Sox, Mets, Brewers, and they just sank their season. They started at 14-15, sound familiar? And they finished at 15-24.
If I remember correctly, Oli, too, was complaining about the travel schedule.
I don't remember about that, but yeah.
Mattresses were a little too hard.
Where we're at with the Cardinals right now. This is a huge stretch that's coming up, and they eliminated all margin for error based on the way that they played on this road trip. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We will talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's got you taken care of from 2 to 6 right here on 101 ESPN.